Chinyu has bipolar disorder. For my sake, he actively sought out therapy. He even took up painting, which he used to despise, to cultivate peace and calm his mind. My parents finally gave their blessing for us to get married, but for 2 years after our wedding, he would often stay overnight in his studio and not come home. Puzzled, I followed him, only to find him in bed with a junior I had once helped. In the heat of our argument, he snapped and pushed me down the stairs. Who gave you all the right to treat me like I'm crazy? Yet, my childhood friend, from whom I'd long since grown apart, actually got revenge for me. After we were both reborn, I covered his mouth. Hold the confession, I have some revenge to take care of first. 1. Jiju, would you be with me? I looked at the young man before me, his face still bearing the handsome, youthful innocence. It began to merge with the image of his deranged, hideous face when he pushed me, after a brief moment of daze. I was just about to speak. Suddenly, a familiar and urgent voice came from behind me. Shin Jiju, don't agree to it. I turned to look. It was Jinyu, looking travel-worn and weary, with the faintest hint of redness at the corners of his eyes. It was the first time I had ever seen him in such a flustered and anxious state. It was obvious, he had been reborn, too. We've all been thrown back to that pivotal senior year of high school. Chinyu's expression changed the moment he saw him, and Jinyu. What are you doing here? He didn't speak, just stared at me with a pleading intensity. I let out a sigh and looked at Chinyu. I can't give you an answer right now. Chinyu was incredulous, his voice rising sharply. Why? Is it because of Jinyu? Didn't you promise me you'd never contact him again? You lied to me. At the same time, he clenched his fist, which trembled slightly. It was a sign that he was about to lose control. I said, without a trace of emotion in my voice, haven't you noticed? You're getting worse. Listen to me. Will you go see a therapist first? My eyes were filled with worry and concern, and a hint of careful hesitation. He flinched as if stung. Every hair on his body stood on end. How many times do I have to say it? I'm not sick. He left, suppressing his anger. I watched his retreating figure for a long moment before finally looking away. This street saw few passers-by at night. Before long, only Jinyu and I remained in that space. After a brief silence, I was the one to break it. You've come back too, haven't you? After the initial shock, he quickly composed himself. Yeah, what happened after I died? At that word, his eyelashes fluttered involuntarily. He lowered his gaze. They fled abroad. I had someone intercept them. And then, it seemed he was worried I still had lingering feelings for Chinyu, and Jinyu glanced up to gauge my expression. I couldn't help but find it a little amusing. I know all that. What I'm asking is, how did you get back? He was silent for a long moment. There was a car accident. I didn't press for any more details, and Jinyu's lips parted slightly, as if he had more to say. I covered his mouth. Hold the confession. Revenge comes first. I won't be able to move on unless I deal with him myself. His hand trembled slightly as he took mine, needing the warmth of my touch to convince himself this wasn't a dream. After a long moment, a smile of profound relief, the relief of something precious regained, finally graced his face. Whatever you want to do, I'll help you, too. I pored over countless psychology books and materials for Chinyu. No one understands how to soothe him better than I do, and no one knows how to destroy him quite like I do. To drive someone mad, especially someone with mania, couldn't be simpler. The first step is to comprehensively negate him, criticize his emotions, and relentlessly slap negative labels on him. Not long after returning home, there was a knock at the door. Chinyu opened the door and came in, his mood having calmed considerably. Jiju, I shouldn't have snapped at you. I'm sorry, I responded with gentle understanding. It's okay, I understand it's because of what you're going through, but you can't avoid getting the help you need. You really should see a therapist. He looked up sharply, his brow furrowed, but offered no further argument. What's going on with Jinyu? Wasn't he studying in the neighboring city? Why is he back all of a sudden? Oh, he's planning to transfer back here. So, you too. Chinyu's tone suddenly became urgent. I smiled. Just a regular friend, that's all. No one is more important than you. Besides, our families are neighbors. It's not like we can just cut all ties and never speak again, right? It was clear this statement did nothing to reassure him. Chinyu is the son of one of my father's childhood friends. After his father passed away, Chin's mother left on her own, leaving him behind. My father took pity on him and brought him home to raise him with us. Chinyu is very dependent on me and has a strong dislike for Jinyu. Bamboo by the window, jade smooth and serene, plum blossoms in the courtyard, abundant and fair. My name and Jinyu seem so gentle and refined, but in his childhood, he was an absolute little terror. The adults would often tease us with a smile, saying we were sure to end up together. Hearing this always put Chinyu in a bad mood. The turning point came after he got into a fight with Jinyu, leaving Chinyu's face covered in bruises. I confronted Jinyu about it, and we had a huge argument that ended badly. After that, Chinyu frequently showed up with various cuts and bruises. He seemed to hem and haw, yet deliberately or not, he steered the blame towards Jinyu. The conflicts and misunderstandings between Jinyu and me grew deeper and deeper. In the end, we parted ways and became like strangers. Looking back now, how could I not have seen it coming? Chinyu had everyone fooled from a young age, playing his part perfectly. 3. After Jinyu transferred to our school, our paths began to cross, one way or another. A deep sense of unease took hold of Chinyu, and he began keeping an even closer watch on me. During this time, I kept reminding him with the word mania. Ayu, why did you yell at Uncle Wang for no reason? Ayu, the look on your face just now really scared me. Is it? Ayu, how could you think that of me? I've never seen you as mentally ill. Ayu, please go see a doctor. Okay, do you really think I would ever try to harm you? Under the banner of doing what was best for him, I would, whether intentionally or not, point out his various flaws and shortcomings. He meticulously selected examples, both major and minor, to substantiate his diagnosis. He attributed all of Chinyu's emotions and behaviors to mania. He persistently belittled and provoked him. His mental state grew increasingly dazed and detached, and he became more irritable and agitated by the day. The sunken eyes and gaunt, pale cheeks told the truth. Chinyu was plunged into a deep well of self-doubt and panic. Finally, the first eruption came. On the day Jinyu transferred to our school, I took off the red cord I never went without. In its place was the diamond bracelet from Jinyu. The faded red cord was tossed aside like trash at the corner of the table. The sight was a sharp stab to Chinyu's eyes. A wave of panic and fury crested within him at that moment. He burst into the classroom and grabbed my hand. Shinjiju, why did you take off the red cord? Chinyu had an identical one on his right hand as well. At that moment, it looked particularly glaring and ironic. I frowned and struggled, deliberately dodging the question. Chinyu, let go of me, you're hurting me. The classroom had already fallen completely silent. Everyone's astonished gaze was fixed on us. Chinyu remained oblivious, his aggression undiminished. Answer me. His face flushed with an unnatural, agitated red, the veins at his temples bulged. A terrifying sight, tears welled up in my eyes before I could stop them. Ayu, please, just calm down. Chinyu reacted to those words as if he'd been triggered. Shinjiju, do you think I'm crazy? Are you afraid of me? He was shouting at the top of his lungs. In the heat of the argument, he yanked my bracelet off. I stared blankly at the floor, tears falling one by one, as if he could no longer hold back. His voice began to tremble. Why would you do this? Why are you always so suspicious and controlling? Your mania is getting out of hand. Why won't you see a doctor? Each cry louder than the last. The entire class erupted in a collective gasp, instinctively backing away from him. Chinyu stared at me in disbelief, the color draining from his face. His lips trembled as he took a step toward me. I instinctively recoiled in fear. A male classmate was standing in my way. Chinyu, calm down. The second step is to turn everyone against him, to make them look at him with suspicion, fear him, and blame him. 4. Someone must have told the homeroom teacher. A moment later, Chinyu was taken to the office. It was only then that I felt the tension finally leave me. I slumped into my chair and began to sob quietly. A few of my female classmates gathered around to comfort me. Most of them were just curious about what had happened. It was as if I'd found a release valve, and I poured out the fear I'd been bottling up for days. For instance, how Chinyu, who was merely fostered at my house, was always yelling at me. For instance, Chinyu was recently diagnosed with manic disorder. For example, Chinyu's mother chose to abandon him. Our entire family considers him one of our own. He shares the same standard of living as I do in every aspect: food, clothing, and daily necessities. In our past life, all our classmates thought he was a rich kid from a family equal to mine. To spare his pride, I never corrected them, but now, with our family scandal out in the open, humanity's greatest asset is its imagination. A subtle shift came over everyone's expressions. Unexpectedly, the school day came to an end. Chinyu never came back. He had skipped school. Where else could I go? Of course, I went to pour my heart out to Tao Mingji. Tao Mingji was a year below us. A year ago, I happened to see her scrape a luxury car with her bicycle. He was yelling right in her face, and she just cowered, her eyes welling up with tears. Our family is quite involved in charity work. and we sponsor many students from underprivileged backgrounds, so when you come across a situation like this, you help if you can. Besides, she was even wearing our school's uniform. Chinyu, on the other hand, felt it was unnecessary to meddle in other people's business. Little did they know, this act of kindness would unexpectedly bring them together. From then on, she became Chinyu's confidant. At home, Chinyu maintained a stable demeanor, playing the part of a normal person. At Tao Mingji's place, he let it all out, accusing me of treating him like he was insane. She was the only one who truly understood Chinyu. They really are a match made in heaven. What a profound mutual redemption. How could I bear to let it lie buried in the dark, year after year? 5. Chinyu did not return all night. He couldn't be found at any of his usual haunts. I'm worried sick. I quickly set up a class group chat without Chinyu in it. Sorry to bother everyone, but Chinyu hasn't been responding to messages, and I'm really worried about him. I've looked almost everywhere. If anyone spots him near your homes, please let me know. Thanks. As you all know, he's been emotionally fragile lately, so it's probably best not to upset him further. Most people in the group responded positively, some even offered to go out and help me search. I was, of course, immensely grateful. Sure enough, before long, a photo was posted in the group. It was the silhouette of Chinyu and Tao Mingji sitting side by side, leaning against each other by the riverbank. You know what? The scene was quite poetic, with a very cinematic feel. I raised an eyebrow in acknowledgement. Clever. A glance at the note revealed the name, Chu Fan. She is one of the students from underprivileged backgrounds I sponsor, yet, she is incredibly popular in class, and everyone enjoys being friends with her. It really shows how high her emotional intelligence is. Chu Fan once hinted at it to me. In a rather roundabout way, she lived in the same cluster of tube-shaped apartment buildings as Tao Mingji. I once happened to see Chinyu walking Tao Mingji home, and there seemed to be something subtle between them. But Chinyu was completely unfazed, saying he had just seen someone giving her a hard time and was merely stepping in to help. After that, I kept an eye on them discreetly for a while. I realized they had no further contact, and that was the end of the matter. Little did I know, they had just gone further underground. Given my recent change in attitude, Chu Fan must have picked up on something, so she's playing along with me. The group chat is going absolutely wild right now. Is this Chinyu? After all, everyone thinks Chinyu and I grew up together. They're always together, practically inseparable. It was a foregone conclusion they'd end up as a couple. I can't believe I stumbled upon another juicy piece of gossip. Out of respect for me, no one wanted to say it to my face. I bet their private group chats and DMs are blowing up right now. Once everyone's thoughts have been sufficiently explored, I sent a voice message in the group chat, my voice trembling with barely contained tears. Please don't misunderstand Chinyu. He's like family to me. He has every right to date someone. I'm just relieved he's been found. Thank you, everyone. I sent out a red envelope with 10,000 yuan in it, so everyone's condolences became much more sincere. 6. My parents came to ask me what was going on with Chinyu. My heart clenched when I saw the worry on their faces. I had to dig my nails deep into my palm to keep my expression from betraying me. After all the love and care we poured into them, we ended up raising an ungrateful wretch. This is utterly absurd. I told them everything that happened at school, down to the last detail. I also asked them not to contact Chinyu for the time being, to avoid upsetting him. My father let out a sigh. Sweetheart, Chinyu has always listened to you since you were kids. You should try to talk some sense into him. Such a good kid, we can't let him be ruined. I agreed with a smile, of course, but from Chinyu's perspective, he was gone the entire weekend, and not a single one of us in the family went looking for him. When he couldn't help but come back on his own, everyone acted as if nothing had happened. Chinyu's icy glare was completely wasted. He hesitated outside my door for a long time before finally giving in and knocking. Shinjiju, open the door. I let out a yawn. Whatever it is, we'll talk tomorrow. The air fell silent for a moment. Her casual, dismissive tone was the final straw, and the pent-up frustration he'd been holding back finally broke free. I heard his low, menacing growl. Shinjiju, what am I to you? A toy you can just discard on a whim. Now that Injinu is back, I'm just disposable trash to you. Is that it? Answer me. The prolonged silence only intensified the torment and fury in his already strained nerves. He slammed his fist against the door. The unsettling crash caught my mother's attention. Xiaoyu, why aren't you asleep yet? He froze, his reply coming out flat and hollow. I'm going to bed now. The sound of hurried, chaotic footsteps faded into the distance. A faint smile touched my lips as I closed my eyes. Content. 7. The next day, I went to school early without saying a word. Chinyu didn't speak to me all morning. It was like a cold war. Even accidental eye contact was deliberately avoided. He seemed absolutely convinced that I would be the one to reach out and make peace, after all. Ever since he was diagnosed with his mental health issues, I'd been doing my best to avoid any conflict with him, and if a disagreement did arise, I'd immediately try to calm him down, worried he might do something reckless. Yet he waited almost an entire day and never received my apology. That was until Ingenue came looking for me and saw us chatting and laughing so merrily. When I returned, he stood blocking my path. His face dark and stormy, a mocking smirk played at the corner of his mouth. "No wonder you've been keeping your distance from me. You and Ingenue have been seeing each other all along, haven't you?" I stared at him in disbelief. Tears welled up in my eyes in an instant. "What are you talking about? What's with the act, Shinjiju? You put on such a show of caring about me before, but have you even asked once how I've been these past 2 days? What are you crying for? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Did you think I was just your backup plan or your pathetic lapdog?" Seeing my face grow pale yet offering no defense, I simply watched him quietly, my eyes clearly reflecting his disgraceful state. Chinyu's fury boiled over, and he roared, "Speak." The classmates who had been frightened into silence could no longer remain neutral upon hearing such vile words. Chu Fan even stepped forward to shield me. "Chinyu, have you no shame? Aren't you the one playing the saint while acting like a complete scoundrel? Shinjiju doesn't care about you, she's been searching for you like crazy, and guess what she found?" Chinyu was stunned by the shout, then realization dawned, and panic slowly crept across his face. He turned to look at me, his movements stiff, his lips instantly turning as pale as paper. "Still think Shinjiju doesn't care about you? She came first thing this morning, handing out gifts to every single classmate, asking us not to look at you differently. TSK, I think I finally understand the story of the farmer and the snake. You're the one cozying up with that freshman, and you have the nerve to turn this around on her." Everyone's gaze towards him was now filled with intense contempt and disdain. At the mention of Little Junior, he froze in place, a cold sweat beating on his temple. "Jiju, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. There's really nothing between me and Tao Mingji. I just needed someone to talk to, please believe me." "Okay." He stepped closer, reaching out to take my hand. I shook my head, my eyes still holding a saintly, forgiving warmth. "You, I truly don't blame you, and I have no right to stop you from seeing other people, but if you really care for her, please see a therapist." "Okay, your symptoms are getting worse." His lips parted, but no words came out. Everyone looked at him with a mixture of pity and disgust. At that moment, he became utterly and completely isolated. He was terrified, panicked, and resistant, finally erupting into a furious roar. "I'm not sick. Why does everyone treat me like I'm insane?" 8. Chu Fan stood firmly in front of me, blocking the way, terrified he might charge forward. "Haven't you had enough? Shinjiju is spending her own money and effort to get you treatment, and you're yelling at her. Do you have any idea how many people can't even afford to see a therapist?" Finally, everyone had seen enough. Everyone spoke up in my defense. "Exactly, Shinjiju practically worships the ground he walks on. What more does he want? A foster child, hurling abuse at the family's own daughter. Can you imagine how heartbroken her parents would be if they knew? Is a mental illness an excuse for his terrible character? He's clearly never respected Shinjiju. If he's sick, he should get treatment and stop ruining other people's lives. It's terrifying to be around someone like him. I'm scared he might hit me one day. Can't the teacher do something about it? No wonder his own mother abandoned him. Serves him right." That was the final straw that completely snapped the thread of reason in Chinyu's mind. His eyes were bloodshot as he glared fiercely at every single person in the classroom. "Who said that? Step forward." No one answered. He violently kicked over the table and chairs. "I'll ask one more time, who said it?" Chu Fan snapped back to reality and let out a piercing scream. "Help, he's hitting someone. Go get a teacher." Chinyu stared with a deathly glare, the veins on the back of his hand bulging menacingly. He clenched his fist and started walking toward her. I pushed Chu Fan aside, but Chinyu couldn't stop his momentum and shoved me to the ground. When he finally realized, he froze. The air was deathly still. Faced with my look of utter disappointment, Chinyu finally felt a belated surge of panic. As if he had lost something in that very moment, I lowered my red-rimmed eyes, a barely perceptible smile flickering and vanishing. Step 3. Gradually provoke his emotions, showcase his loss of control, turning every one of his justifications into a sharp blade that cuts him to pieces. I will make the label of mental illness cling to him like a festering sore. It will haunt him, shadow his every step, until it truly drives him mad. 9. Chinyu dropped out of school. When my father found out, he forced him to see a therapist. I just gave a faint, wry smile. If he had listened to even a word of it, things wouldn't have ended up the way they did in my past life. When I insisted on hiring 2 bodyguards, my father hesitated. Isn't that a bit much? Xiaoyu promised he wouldn't do it again. The moment I revealed the bandage on my arm, he was left speechless. My mother's face had already turned cold. After all these years, we've never treated him poorly for a single moment. Just listen to how he's cursing my daughter, Xin Wuqian. I'm telling you, if you keep showing such blatant favoritism, we're getting a divorce. My father wiped his face, looking years older in an instant. This time, I didn't play the peacemaker or try to smooth things over with soft words. The story of the farmer and the snake from my past life serves as a stark warning. Showing mercy to a viper is like pushing yourself toward hell. I turned my head and caught a glimpse of Qinyu's coat tail disappearing around the stairwell corner. The next day, as 2 bodyguards in black were escorting me to school, Qinyu called out to me, flustered and anxious. The bodyguards instantly moved to shield me, eyeing him warily. During this time, he had wasted away to little more than a skeleton. The dark circles under my eyes were too pronounced to ignore. He let out a bitter laugh. Zhizhu, you don't have to be so guarded around me. I just wanted to apologize to you. I sighed, my eyes and expression still gentle and forgiving, yet with a hint of stiffness that was plain to see. You will always be family. I hope you get well soon. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just focus on getting the care you need. I discreetly observed his expression growing increasingly rigid. He added, as if it were an afterthought, by the way, you should go see that junior more often. There must be a reason you enjoy her company so much. I'm sure with her by your side, you'll recover in no time. With each word, Qinyu's expression darkened further. His eyes were rimmed with red from anger and agitation. His knuckles were white from how tightly he clenched his fists. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words died on his lips. He just offered a fragile smile as he watched me leave. 10. His reaction was, of course, related to Tao Mingji. I merely had Jinyu appear before Tao Mingji. I casually let slip about our childhood friendship. After all, she does seem to have a particular fondness for the people around me. Sure enough, Tao Mingji quickly shifted her focus. Well, one is the school's notorious lunatic, constantly at risk of being cast aside. The other is a genuine young master from a wealthy family, refined, handsome, and emotionally stable. Any smart person would know who to choose. And Jinyu's plan to reel in Tao Mingji was proceeding remarkably smoothly. Little by little, she was falling into an elaborately laid trap, completely unaware. In contrast, her confiding in Qinyu became increasingly perfunctory and impatient. That was when Qinyu sensed something was off. The last time he went to see Tao Mingji, he found her gazing at Jinyu with a face full of bashful admiration. Surprisingly, Qinyu remained eerily calm, yet, the calmer the sea's surface appears, the more turbulent the undercurrents rage beneath. A terrifying storm was brewing and taking shape within his heart. From that day on, Jinyu and I walked to and from school together, openly and without pretense. He transferred into our class and became my new deskmate. We became practically inseparable. Quite a few classmates on the school forum were already shipping us. Tao Mingji was visibly getting anxious as she saw us growing closer. She started contacting Jinyu frequently in private, trying to lock him down. But everyone in our class knew about the ambiguous relationship between Tao Mingji and Qinyu, so, the news of Tao Mingji two-timing ended up on the campus confession wall. Chu Fan commented underneath, "Oh my god, this junior is so heartless. Qinyu gave up everything for her, and she just moved on to the next guy without a second thought." A bunch of comments followed underneath. Exactly. Qinyu needs someone by his side now more than ever, and she just up and abandoned him. If it weren't for her, Qinyu and Zhizhu might still be together and happy. What a cruel twist of fate. Is she deliberately trying to drive a wedge between Qin and Zhu, to ruin him? That's terrifying. I heard Zhizhu even helped her once. My god, is this how she repays someone? Tao Mingji was reading these comments, and so was Qinyu. Tao Mingji was frantic with worry, afraid Jinyu would misunderstand, and immediately stepped forward to clarify, "Qinyu and I are just ordinary friends, so please stop spreading rumors." She was so eager to distance herself from Qinyu that she even stopped replying to his messages. At home, he saw the beaming smile on my face while I was on the phone with Jinyu. Outside, he once again witnessed Tao Mingji's relentless efforts to curry favor with Jinyu. Under the constant barrage of stimuli and the vicious cycle, Qinyu's mental state grew increasingly precarious. Everything that was rightfully his had been snatched away by others. How could he ever accept this? For document anti-counterfeiting, choose Xiaohu bot. For finding books, choose Xiao asterisk who robot, reliable and trustworthy heavy check mark. No pitfalls. 11. The day of my 18th birthday celebration had finally arrived. My parents threw me a really grand celebration and even invited quite a few business partners. Naturally, I also invited my classmates. Chinyu has been much quieter lately. The medication and therapy seemed to be genuinely working. He cautiously asked my dad if he could come, promising he wouldn't cause any trouble. My dad, who had treated him like his own son for so many years, couldn't help but feel for him. In the end, he gave a nod of agreement. During the dance, I asked Jinyu for the first dance. The music was melodious and light, guests mingled with glasses in hand. An elegant scene of finery and fragrance, and Jinyu, dressed in a white suit, extended her hand toward me. We carried ourselves with graceful composure at the center of the dance floor. Warm, kindly smiles graced everyone's faces. Everyone was there except for Chinyu. Chinyu stood in the corner, dressed in a black suit. His gaze was fixed intently on us, his grim expression no longer concealed. Chu Fan, arm in arm with her classmate, spoke to her in a low voice. He sighed with feigned regret, just loud enough for him to hear. If Chinyu and Jiju hadn't fallen out like this, he'd surely be the one on stage right now, wouldn't he? Ah, well, who can you really blame? Who's to blame? Blame Jinyu for haunting him relentlessly, determined to take everything from him. Blame Tao Mingji for clouding his judgment with sweet talk, only to turn around and abandon him. Blame me for my insincere feelings toward him, for not choosing him with conviction. How could someone like him ever blame himself? After Chu Fan's relentless verbal prodding, both overt and subtle, reminding him of his current predicament, in his peripheral vision, Chinyu looked dazed, his facial muscles twitching and spasming. He was already deeply consumed by his emotions, swallowed by the darkness. The smiles of those around him twisted into sneers in his ears. And Jinyu looked down at him with a condescending gaze, the corner of her lips curled into a mocking, pitying arc. The last shred of his sanity snapped, and Chinyu slowly picked up the cutlery from the plate beside him, his eyes bloodshot. He charged toward the center. Everyone was caught off guard, their minds going blank. After a brief moment of silence, screams erupted one after another. As a blinding flash of silver light streaked past, the prepared bodyguards rushed forward and subdued him. The knife clattered to the floor. It shattered the last shred of sympathy my father held for him. This coming-of-age ceremony allowed my father to see his true colors clearly. It also showed everyone that our family had done everything we possibly could for him. Not a single moral blemish remained. Chinyu, driven to raving and screaming madness, was forcibly committed to a sanatorium, abandoned by the whole world, utterly isolated and helpless. Now, it's time for the final step. 12. To my surprise, Chinyu had also been reborn. He started frantically texting me. You've been reborn too, haven't you, Shinjiju? How could you be so cruel to me? Have you forgotten? You promised you would stay with me forever, that you would love me forever. It was you. You're the one who betrayed me, Jiju. I'm so sorry. I know I was wrong. Please, can you forgive me? The moment I pushed you, I regretted it. It was all my fault. Can we please be together for the rest of our lives? I'll do anything to make it up to you. I'll listen to you and see a doctor. Please, don't leave me. Please, come see me. I don't want to be stuck here forever. My eyebrow arched. Stay in this sanatorium forever, enjoying the most meticulous service and living conditions. He's got some nerve. Since I'm back, I might as well settle this once and for all. I replied to him. Don't overthink it. Just focus on getting better. Rebirth. Only a lunatic would say something so absurd. Each message hammered the label on him more firmly in place. Chinyu had completely lost his mind. Not long after, Chu Fan took it upon himself to organize a few classmates to visit him. It seemed like concern, but it was actually adding fuel to the fire. When she mentioned Tao Mingji, Chinyu lifted his head, his eyes clouded, vacant, and frighteningly dark. I'd like to see her. Chu Fan paused, then smiled. All right, I'll try to talk her into it. When I heard the news, I was filled with emotion all over again. A just cause enjoys abundant support, while an unjust one finds little. Chu Fan truly embodied the spirit of repaying a drop of kindness with a flood of gratitude. Someone so intelligent and appreciative is worth befriending for a lifetime. I called out to my dad. There's a classmate of mine named Chu Fan. She gets top grades and is always willing to help others, though her family is a bit poor. I really like her. I want to sponsor her university education. And ideally, after she graduates, she can join our company and work as my right-hand person. My dad chuckled. Oh, building your own team already? That's my girl. I clung to his arm, acting all sweet and coquettish. I'll invite her over for dinner in a few days. You all need to be extra welcoming. Okay, alright, whatever you say, sweetheart. 13. Chu Fan went to find Tao Mingji, begging her to go see Qin Yu. During this time, Tao Mingji endured countless scornful looks. Even her classmates in the class kept their distance from her of their own accord. Words like ungrateful wretch, two-timer, and heartless were already carved into her very bones. Tao Mingji had long been on the verge of breaking. Just hearing Qin Yu's name triggered her. She finally couldn't hold back and shouted, "How many times do I have to say it? Qin Yu has nothing to do with me. Whether he's crazy or not is none of my business." Tao Mingji couldn't help but go to Jinyu for help. Because Jinyu would always look at her with gentle eyes, she wouldn't mock or ridicule her like those others did. But this time, after pouring out her grievances in a long complaint, Jinyu simply said, "I like kind girls, no matter what. Qin Yu has known you for a while. You shouldn't kick him when he's down." Tao Mingji stared at him in disbelief, her eyes welling up with aggrieved tears, and Jinyu, however, was no longer buying it. She turned and walked away. In the end, she panicked. "I'll go see him, please, don't leave." Only then did Jinyu give her a smile. "Alright, once you've talked it out with him, I'll take you to the amusement park." Tao Mingji's cheeks flushed, and she smiled shyly, pressing her lips together. When the weekend came, she went to the nursing home on her own initiative. Sunlight fell on Qin Yu. His expression was calm, even holding a faint smile. This eased Tao Mingji's anxiety. Allowing her to finally relax, they exchanged pleasantries as usual. And the atmosphere was quite relaxed and amiable. Tao Mingji's worries completely melted away. She even peeled an apple for him. He asked, his tone calm and even, "Xiao Ji, what are we to each other now?" Tao Mingji's hand trembled, and the unbroken peel of the apple fell to the floor. Her smile froze, and she began to speak haltingly. "Brother Yu, we're friends." Qin Yu let out a laugh. "Friends?" That chilling smile shattered Tao Mingji's last shred of composure. She stood up, ready to leave. Qin Yu pressed further. "Do friends share a bed? Do friends kiss? Aren't you afraid I'll tell Jinyu all this?" Tao Mingji whirled around, raising her voice in a way that only made things more obvious. "Who would ever believe a word from a lunatic like you? I only comforted you out of pity, and now you have the nerve to cling to me like this. Qin Yu, I owe you nothing. You're clearly delusional. If you're sick, go get help." Unbelievable. Her words grew more forceful as she spoke. And she turned and stormed off in a rage. In the next instant, Qin Yu snatched the fruit knife from the nightstand. He pinned her by the neck and plunged it viciously into her abdomen. "Ah, help me." His eyes were bloodshot, a sinister, chilling smirk twisting the corner of his mouth. "Tao Mingji, it's you who ruined me. You wretched woman, you destroyed everything I had. And it's all because of you. If it weren't for you poisoning my relationship with Jiju every single day, we would never have ended up like this. This is all your fault. I'm going to kill you to atone to her. Just die." One slash followed by another. Her struggles grew weaker and weaker. Finally, she collapsed helplessly into the pool of blood, her eyes wide open and staring. Death had come, but peace had not. 14. When I arrived at the sanatorium, Qin Yu was standing on the rooftop. One more small step forward, and he would have plunged from the 20-meter-high building. His body shattered beyond recognition. The wind was fierce, and his white hospital gown was completely soaked in blood. At that moment, he looked like a demon that had crawled straight out of hell. Absolutely terrifying. I called out to him with concern in my voice. Qin Yu turned mechanically, a grotesque smile plastered on his face. "Jiju, I've killed her. No one can stand in our way now. Let's be together. Just the two of us." "Okay." He's completely lost his mind right now. There's not a shred of reason left in him. My voice trembled. You, get down from there. Don't do anything stupid." As other medical staff tried to approach, he immediately brandished his knife. "Anyone who dares come closer, I'll kill them." Everyone froze in their tracks. Tears streamed from my eyes. "You, have you forgotten how happy we were, growing up together? Don't you look forward to our future? Put the knife down, let me come to you." "Okay." Qin Yu froze. His hands began to tremble violently, and the knife clattered to the ground. I walked toward him, step by step. I gently extended my hand to him. He was like a lost and fragile child. Tears welling up and spilling from his eyes, he murmured nervously, his touch on my face tender and reverent. "Jiju, will you ever forgive me?" With my back to the crowd, I flashed him a faint smile. "What's the act? If you haven't jumped by now, it's because you're too scared to die." His fingers froze. I held his hand and spoke the cruelest words in the gentlest tone. "You will never receive anyone's forgiveness. What's the point of someone like you, a lunatic, even being alive in this world?" No wonder your mother abandoned you. Everyone despises you. Why don't you just die? Chinyu's hands began to tremble violently. Shut up, you bitch, I'll kill you. Everyone knew he was having an episode. Casting all else aside, they rushed forward at that moment, ready to shield me. In the midst of the struggle, my grip loosened slightly. Chinyu's pupils contracted sharply as he was thrown backwards uncontrollably. In that final instant, his look of terror, regret, and bitter resentment was mirrored in my eyes. No, I collapsed to the floor, utterly drained. As tears fell one by one onto the ground, I still couldn't save him. It's all my fault. The nurse held me in her arms. It's not your fault. You've done more than enough. You don't need to blame yourself. Yeah, I've done enough. Look, he's completely dead. 15. After Jinyu rushed up to the rooftop, the nurse told him to calm me down properly, then left the two of us alone. He nodded and began walking toward me. Step by step, I turned around. Not a trace of shadow in my eyes, only the pure, unadulterated pleasure and satisfaction of vengeance fulfilled. My blood-smeared face was reflected in the depths of his pupils. I lifted my head and slowly, methodically wiped it clean. Then, I flashed a smile of dazzling brilliance. Now, you may confess your feelings to me. And Jinyu's eyes and brows were suffused with the utmost tenderness. Admiration and cherishing danced in his eyes like a handful of scattered stars. He spoke with the solemn gravity of a vow. Shinjiju, will you be with me? I will. The end. Story 2. In my past life, I accidentally fell into water. After Gu Yannan gave me CPR, he was forced to marry me to take responsibility. That's why he grew to despise me, though he never wanted to marry me. He suddenly agreed. Decades later during a hospital interview, he wrote, "Meeting someone too extraordinary in youth dooms a lifetime of regret. Only then did I realize his heart had always belonged to our junior sister. His agreement to marry me was just spite toward her. Reborn, I severed every thread connecting us. When I came to, I spoke up first. Comrade Gu was kind enough to save me, but I won't hold him responsible." 1. Waking up, I found myself lying in bed staring at a white ceiling, the sharp smell of disinfectant hanging in the air. The sound of an argument reached my ears. "You've taken advantage of my daughter. How's she supposed to marry anyone now? You must take responsibility and marry her." Gu Yannan stood in the corner wearing a white lab coat, his tall, straight figure and handsome face impossible to miss. With his striking looks, educated parents, and prestigious career, he was the most sought-after bachelor in the entire compound. There wasn't a single girl who didn't have a crush on him growing up. When I realized I'd returned to my 22-year-old self, tears of joy streamed down my face. Gu Yannan and I grew up in the same compound. Since my father had helped raise his family arranged a childhood betrothal between us out of gratitude. My eyes fluttered open, still damp at the corners, as I called out hoarsely, "Mom." Gu Yannan noticed the tears at the corner of my eye and let out a cold laugh. "Auntie, when I performed CPR on Xiaoyao, I wasn't trying to take advantage of her. I don't have feelings for Xiaoyao either. There's nothing romantic between us." Mother looked at me with pity in her eyes. In these times, physical contact between men and women is a sensitive matter. Mother only pressured Gu Yannan to marry me because she feared it would damage my reputation. I straightened up and said, meeting Gu Yannan's indifferent gaze, "Comrade Gu was kind enough to save me. I won't hold him responsible." As the words hung in the air, Gu Yannan's eyes flickered with momentary surprise before regaining their usual composure. 2. In my past life, Gu Yannan was the most outstanding young man in our compound, secretly infatuated with him and bound by our childhood betrothal. I naturally hoped this incident would lead to our marriage. After rescuing me from drowning with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, both sets of parents pressured him into marrying me. He had been firmly refusing all along, and truth be told, I never wanted to force him either. Just as both families were negotiating the annulment, he suddenly agreed to marry me. We married shortly after. On the second day of our marriage, while delivering lunch to Gu Yannan at the hospital, I encountered a violent patient brandishing a knife. When the blade swung toward Gu Yannan's hand, I threw myself in front of him. The sight of blood on the floor made my mind go blank. I'd lost a finger. Later, he continued working at the hospital while I stayed home during my pregnancy. As he got promoted, I followed along with his job transfers. Gu Yannan was never particularly kind nor cold to me. We just seemed perpetually stuck, unable to take our relationship any further. When our child turned 1, he was supposed to be promoted to a top-tier hospital, but instead volunteered for medical aid in Tibet. From then on, I raised our son alone, not seeing Gu Yannan for 3 years. Beyond sending money occasionally, he completely vanished. I've nearly forgotten what he looks like. When my son was 10, I lugged all our luggage alone and traveled all the way to Tibet with him to find his father. When I reached his workplace, I introduced myself. Hello, I'm Dr. Gu's wife. I brought our son to see him. The man lifted his eyelids and gave me a once-over before saying, "Humph, which one of Dr. Gu's admirers are you?" Dr. Gu does have children, but just one daughter. I froze on the spot. After bringing my child and making numerous inquiries, I finally learned that Gu Yannan came to Tibet because his junior colleague had been transferred there. Back then, he gave up his prestigious position at a top-tier hospital, trading a promising future just for the chance to work alongside his first love. But we were about to call off the engagement. It was his own choice to marry me. Before signing the marriage certificate, I asked him repeatedly, "Do you truly want to marry me?" He always replied, That's what gave me the confidence to register our marriage. The high altitude in Tibet often causes oxygen deprivation. The very next day, my son developed a high fever from altitude sickness. I spent the night at the hospital and called Gu Yannan from a public phone booth. Gu Yannan said, "Xia Yao, it's the middle of the night. Can you please stop this? I'm in Tibet. Not Beiping. There's no way I can make it to you." My son was crying for me, and the nurse called me over. I had to hang up without another word. After staying up all night caring for my son, I ran into Gu Yannan at the cafeteria while getting food. The woman said something that brought a faint smile to his face. It was a smile I'd never seen before. When our son was born, he smiled too, but just briefly, not a joyful smile. Rather one of relief. This woman must be Liang Xia. His junior fellow apprentice. Liang Xia took her seat while Gu Yannan brought over 2 meal trays. I didn't even have time to stop and confront him about why he lied to me. Rushed back to the ward to care for my sick son. The nurses administering my son's 4 were chatting. Dr. Gu and Dr. Liang make such a perfect couple. Dr. Gu picks up their daughter every day, giving Dr. Liang free time to hang out with friends. What a shame, someone as handsome as Dr. Gu married Dr. Liang so young. Watching my son lying in the hospital bed with high fever, my heart ached with sorrow. When fetching water, I saw Gu Yannan bringing Liang Xia's daughter back to the office. All these years, I've raised our child alone. When our kid needed parenting the most, he went off to Tibet for work, leaving me stranded in Beijing. Yet here he is, playing nanny for someone else's child. I stepped into his office. Gu Yannan. He looked up at me with furrowed brows. "What are you doing here? Why did you come here?" He visited his son in the hospital ward, but the boy didn't even recognize him, just kept calling out, "Uncle." But the little girl beside him called out sweetly, "Daddy, who's he?" I've struggled alone to raise our child, yet here he is playing daddy to someone else's kid. Before coming to Tibet to find him, my son eagerly said he wanted to see what his father looked like. But when we actually met him, his stern expression made my son hide behind me and whisper, "Mom, that's not my dad." The next day, he bought train tickets and sent me and the child back to Beijing. During an argument, I learned he only married me out of spite towards Liang Xia. In a fit of anger, he told Liang Xia, "If you leave, I'll marry Xia Yao immediately. I mean what I say." Little did he know that this moment of peak would mark his final parting with Liang Xia. I'd resolved to stop meddling in his affairs with Liang Xia. Yet decades later, approaching retirement after being reassigned to Beijing, he left this hospital interview remark, "Meeting someone too extraordinary in youth dooms one to lifelong regret." During a live broadcast, his gaze settled on Liang Xia as he said, "The one you couldn't have in youth will haunt you for life." His remark caused an uproar across the internet. Netizens exposed my identity as his wife, along with the real reason behind our marriage. Though he married me out of spite towards Liang Xia, the narrative twisted into me forcing him into marriage through relentless pursuit. It wasn't until later that I discovered the person causing the hospital disturbance wasn't his patient, but Liang Xia's husband. Her husband believed Liang Xia and Gu Yannan had cuckolded him, yet I was the one who ended up disabled because of it. Under the relentless waves of cyberbullying, I eventually succumbed and passed away during an illness. On my deathbed, my deepest regret was never divorcing Gu Yannan. Thank heavens, I've been given a second chance at life. This time, I won't make the same foolish mistakes. 3. As Gu Yannan left my hospital room, Mom held my hand and gently touched my forehead. "No fever, right? You used to be so fond of him, and you even got engaged to him." I looked at my mother firmly and said, "Mom, that's all in the past now. Besides, both Gu Yannan and I have grown up. Childhood betrothals hardly count anymore. At our age, we should be free to choose our own partners. Besides, he already has someone he likes." Mother's eyes filled with concern. "But, he saved you from the riverbank. He kissed you. So many people saw it." Mom was worried that Gu Yannan kissing me would damage my reputation. I held Mom's hand. Don't worry, Mom, he was just trying to save me. It wasn't a real kiss. Mom sighed. Alright then, I'll respect your decision. 4. As a college graduate, I had bright prospects ahead. Even without further studies, I could land a decent job in this era. As long as I don't marry Gu Yannan, I won't repeat the same mistakes. In my past life, I stayed home raising children after graduation, squandering my prime years and career opportunities. By the time my kids grew up, I had no work experience left. No employer would hire me anymore. Gu Yannan was 2 years my senior. Having already practiced medicine for 2 years post-graduation, his junior fellow student Liang Xie graduated the same year as him. Over these 4 years, I excelled academically, ranking in the top 2% of my major, and earned an exchange student placement. I walked into the teacher's office. Professor, I've made up my mind. I want to pursue graduate studies. The teacher nodded approvingly with a warm smile. That's more like it. On my way back, I ran into Liang Xie. In my past life, I'd never paid her any attention at this point. It wasn't until Gu Yannan left for Tibet that I learned Liang Xie wasn't just his junior fellow student. She was also his first love. Liang Xie was holding a lunchbox when her classmate teased. Shiyu, Dr. Gu is such a sweetheart. He brings you lunchboxes every single day. Even with braised pork, Liang Xie lowered her head shyly, cheeks tinged pink. Oh, stop it. You're just teasing me now. In my past life, Gu Yannan wouldn't even make me a simple bowl of porridge. After school, I went alone to the hospital to pick up my medicine. At the hospital entrance, I ran into Aunt Gu, who was bringing lunch to Gu Yannan. Aunt Gu happily took my hand. Yao Yao, perfect timing. Could you take this meal up to Yannan for me? I've got something urgent. Need to deliver documents to your uncle's office. The lunchbox was already thrust into my hands. With a sigh, I considered asking a nurse to deliver it to Gu Yannan's office. But it was peak hours. The nurses were swamped. Barely even time for a sip of water, let alone running meal deliveries. I walked into Gu Yannan's office and was just about to put down the lunchbox and leave when he entered. Gu Yannan looked at me and said, Xia Yao, stop doing these things. I don't like you. I paused for a moment, then nodded. This isn't from me. Aunt Gu asked me to bring it to you. He didn't seem convinced, his face expressionless as he kept his hands in his pockets. Then without hesitation, he tossed the lunchbox into the trash right in front of me. With a thud, the container split open, spilling its contents into the trash bin. I froze momentarily before raising my eyes to meet his gaze. His eyes held nothing but detached indifference. Xia Yao. I saved you because I'm a doctor, simply fulfilling my professional duty. I don't have feelings for you. I gave a slight nod. I know. 5. When I returned home for the weekend, the house was packed with people. Gu Yannan looked even more refined and handsome in his white shirt as he took a delicate sip of tea. Gu Yannan's mother greeted me with a warm smile. Yao Yao dear, you're back. I responded with a polite smile and nod. Hello auntie. Hello uncle. Aunt Gu took my hand. We're here today to discuss your marriage with Yannan. What do you think? Gu Yannan gave me an icy stare, as if he believed my words were just a tactical retreat. I don't understand why Aunt Gu came to discuss engagement arrangements when I've made it perfectly clear to Mom that I don't want to get married. I replied with a smile. Auntie, I won't be marrying Gu Yannan. Aunt Gu gave an awkward chuckle. Yao Yao. We've heard about what happened between you and Yannan. What incident? Alarm bells rang in my head as I quickly explained. Auntie, it's not what you think. Gu Yannan didn't do anything wrong. What he did back then wasn't that. He was actually saving me. Aunt Gu froze for a moment. A flicker of surprise crossed Gu Yannan's face as he turned to look at me. Given how infatuated I used to be with him, he probably expected me to seize the opportunity. My refusal clearly caught him off guard. As a kid, I'd trail after him like an eager puppy, calling him Brother Yannan, but I'm grown now. It's time I learned some boundaries. I stood before him and said earnestly, Comrade Gu, I haven't thanked you yet for saving me. He paused for a moment before replying. It was my duty. I'm just glad you're okay. Aunt Gu didn't expect me to be so decisive. I went to the room for paper and pen, then wrote the engagement termination letter. To avoid future complications, you may sign this as well. Don't worry, I'd never cling to you. Both sets of parents are watching. Gu Yannan looked at me, took the paper and pen, then paused before signing his name. From that moment on, we went our separate ways. 6. Gu Yannan left my house with the broken engagement letter. I went to school on time as usual. When my roommate found out I got the exchange student spot, she dragged me out to celebrate. Yao Yao, let's go to karaoke. I heard this place is all the rage lately, but I've never been. We arrived to find neon lights glowing, liquor flowing, and private booths waiting. My roommate Ahong was electrified by all the novelty, belting out Teresa Ting's Sweet as Honey into the mic all night. Ahong sported the trendiest pixie cut, her lanky frame wrapped in black leather. Towering ahead above us, she carried this devil-may-care aura. Many female classmates complimented her on being strikingly beautiful. After she got drunk, I supported her as we left the karaoke bar. It took quite an effort for us roommates to help her back to the dorm. Even after securing the exchange student spot, I didn't neglect my studies. In my free time, I hand-knitted hats and used my 4 years' worth of saved living expenses to buy clearance items at wholesale markets. Crafting small accessories to sell on the streets, hair clips, and hats are all the rage right now. New Year's Day is just around the corner. During my free time between classes, I set up a stall by the school gate selling these little trinkets. There's a flea market nearby where students sell second-hand goods, which actually helps bring more customers to my stall. Business is booming. My handmade hair clips are gaining popularity and becoming a trend at school. As the holidays approach, my stall business is doing even better. Besides running the stall to save up for study abroad expenses, I've kept up with my academics. I study during the day and make small accessories in my spare time. My roommate started helping out, so we ended up going into business together, and things just kept getting better. Setting up the stall in the evening. Hey classmate, how much for this butterfly hair clip? Bending over to give change to the last customer, I looked up and said, 50 cents. I only noticed the pair before me when the woman cooed Brother Yannan in that saccharine voice. Straightening up, I locked eyes with Gu Yannan. His gaze shifted between me and the wares on my stall. I gestured with my hands. I'll give you a discount if you want them. 3 for $1. Liang Xia kept her head down while picking. Gu Yannan kept staring at me. After they made their selections, Gu Yannan paid for Liang Xia. Just as I was packing up to return to the dorm, Gu Yannan blocked my path. Xia Yao, what are you doing setting up a stall instead of focusing on your studies? I kept my head down and continued packing. Ignoring him, he grabbed my arm. Xia Yao, say something. I lifted my gaze to meet his eyes. Dr. Gu, didn't you see me setting up my stall here? After packing up, I waited for my roommate to help me carry the things. Gu Yannan asked with visible irritation, are you short on cash? Suddenly, a crisp banknote was thrust into my hand. This money could cover my living expenses for months. Gu Yannan was being remarkably generous. His expression darkened, brows knitting slightly as his voice took on a reproachful edge. Xia Yao, focus on your studies. Stay away from shady places. I followed you all night yesterday. I saw you coming out of a karaoke bar with some guy. I was completely baffled. So what? His thin lips pressed into a tight line. A girl should have some self-respect. I nodded vigorously. You're right. So Comrade Gu, would you mind letting go of my hand? I don't want my classmates getting the wrong idea. Gu Yannan released his grip, his expression turning unreadable. I handed back the money he shoved into my hand. What's wrong with making an honest living by selling things? I'm doing this with dignity. With that, I turned and left, while my roommate Ahong came to help carry my things. 7. Every day after studying at the library, I'd rush to set up my stall. Even though my exchange program covers tuition and living expenses, I still want to save up some money to start a small business after graduation. It's winter now, and scarves are selling quite well. I bought some scarves and yarn at the wholesale market, then added 3D floral patterns to make them more appealing to students. I'll head home after selling this last batch of inventory, while running my stall at the school gate. I often saw Gu Yannan bringing meals for Liang Xia. That day, a girl ordered a scarf from me. After packing up, I went to her dorm according to the room number. I waited at her door for quite a while until she returned. After handing her the scarf, I left in a hurry. As I was leaving, I bumped into another girl coming my way. It's Liang Xia. She gave me a once-over. The next day, as I was packing to leave, Gu Yannan was waiting outside my door. 2 girls stood beside him. One is Liang Xia. The other is her roommate, the girl who bought a scarf from me yesterday. Xia Yao. I stopped in my tracks and turned to Gu Yannan. Return Xia's belongings. I looked at him in confusion. What is it? Gu Yannan said gravely. Xia's ring. Liang Xia's eyes were red as she clutched my hand, her voice trembling with tears. Xia Yao, I know about you. You have feelings for Yannan, don't you? But Yannan loves me. You can't do this to me. Please, just give me back the ring, okay? Their conversation left me completely baffled. If you have any issues, you can file a report at the police station. Liang Xia pleaded through tears. Please give me back the ring. I'm begging you. the ring belongs to my roommate, they just left it with me for safekeeping. I frowned and shook off her hand. I didn't take your ring. Gu Yannan stepped between us, looking down at me. Xia Yao, are you that desperate for money lately? Even if you are, you can't do these things, you know that. Give Shiyu's ring back, and I'll pay you. I let out a bitter laugh as I stared at him. Which eye of yours saw me take Liang Xia's ring? Do you have any proof? Gu Yannan was visibly rattled, his thin lips pressed tightly together before he spoke again. Xia isn't short of money, and neither are her roommates. The ring went missing right after you visited their dorm yesterday. I scoffed. How ridiculous. They're accusing me without proof when I never even stepped foot inside their room. Across lifetimes, Gu Yannan has always trusted Liang Xia without question. Liang Xia's roommate lunged for my bags and suitcase, but I held them tight against me. This is outright robbery, Liang Xia pleaded pitifully. Yao Yao, please give me back the ring, won't you? I glanced at them and said, Liang Xia, I've never even been inside your dorm room. Do you have any proof that I took it? Liang Xia paused for a moment before adding, that, you took it when we bumped into each other. Amid the scuffle, Gu Yannan pressed relentlessly. Xia Yao, hand over the ring willingly and we'll let this go. A sharp clatter rang out. The ring slipped out of Liang Xia's pocket. She froze instantly, her face flushing crimson, standing rooted to the spot. She wore a wounded expression. Yannan, Gu Yannan visibly froze for a second before Liang Xia's roommate immediately scooped up the ring. At least it's been found, I scoffed. You owe me an apology, Liang Xia stammered hesitantly. Xia Yao, I didn't mean to. I raised my voice coldly. Apologize to me. Gu Yannan stepped in front of me, his towering frame radiating intimidation. His eyes were icy. Aside from that fleeting flicker of awkwardness, not a trace of remorse remained. Enough, Xia Yao. Xia didn't mean it. I stared blankly at the three people before me, feeling sick to my stomach. 8. Coming home and seeing my parents' hair still untouched by gray, I suddenly felt tears welling up. Mom called me to dinner while Dad busied himself with my luggage. Gu Yannan lived right across from our house. I knitted 4 scarves and planned to give one each to Aunt Gu and Uncle Gu. It's my way of thanking them for their kindness over the years. Knowing Gu Yannan wouldn't be home these days, I felt at ease visiting Aunt Gu. Aunt Gu welcomed me warmly, and I brought out the scarves. Auntie, I had no classes before winter break, so I knitted 2 scarves for you and Uncle Gu. Aunt Gu happily wrapped the scarf around her neck. Just as I was about to leave, Gu Yannan appeared in the courtyard. I caught a glimpse of him in my peripheral vision but didn't linger. Walking straight out, Gu Yannan stepped in front of me, blocking the gate. Yao Yao. I frowned slightly. Dr. Gu, you can call me Xia Yao. No need for formalities. His thin lips parted slightly. I owe you an apology for this morning. I wronged you. I nodded at his apology and tried to step around him. But he swiftly blocked my path with his long strides. His expression softened slightly. Xia Yao, where's my gift? There was a cheerful lilt in his voice, his face brimming with anticipation as I glanced at him. What gift? His face froze. It's the scarf. He scratched his head, pointing at the scarf inside the room. In my past life, I'd knitted scarves for him and Gu's parents around this time, but this year I hadn't prepared anything for him. I made scarves for Gu's parents because they always bring me gifts when they return from abroad each year. I didn't knit one for you. He looked embarrassed. Fine. 9. During the spring festival break, I shared the news about becoming an exchange student with my parents. Their faces lit up with joy, eyebrows lifting in delight. That's wonderful. Our Yao Yao is going places. I'll be leaving for my exchange program abroad in March. When Mom learned I'd be leaving in March, she quietly wiped away tears after our reunion dinner, turning her back to hide her emotions. The next day, the whole compound was buzzing with festive New Year spirit. Dad insisted on throwing me a farewell celebration, saying the whole neighborhood should know how proud they are of my achievements. Mom covered her mouth with a chuckle. Sure, let's throw a celebration for Yao Yao. Let everyone see how accomplished our Yao Yao has become. Dad took off his glasses and kept rereading my admission letter over and over. Mom praised me with pride. Seeing the joy on my parents' faces filled me with gratitude and happiness. In my past life, I lost a finger protecting Gu Yannan, leaving my hand permanently damaged. I could no longer lift heavy objects. Even carrying groceries caused aching pain. On rainy days, the old wound would itch and throb, though I dared not scratch it, leaving me with a lifelong disability. My right hand would ache unbearably after prolonged writing, forcing me to practice shakily with my left. After rebirth, tears would well up whenever I wrote or knitted, yet touching my perfectly intact hands filled me with overwhelming gratitude. 10. During the new year, Mom caught the seasonal illness. and I accompanied her to the hospital to get medicine. A noisy crowd had gathered on the first floor. Right in the center stood two people. I recognized that tall, straight-backed figure instantly. It was Gu Yannan. The other person was the one who severed my right hand in my past life. In my previous life, I'd always assumed he was just a disgruntled patient of Gu Yannan's causing trouble at the hospital. Only at death's door did I learn he was actually Liang Xia's lover. Gu Yannan and Liang Xia had been involved in a vague romantic entanglement for some time, though they never made it official. Liang Xia secretly dated this man behind Gu Yannan's back. The man caused a scene at the hospital after discovering Gu Yannan. This time, I watched Gu Yannan from afar without stepping forward. In my past life, I shielded him without hesitation because he'd saved me from drowning with CPR. Though he chose to marry me, I always carried guilt toward him, as a surgeon. That slash would have severed his hands. He couldn't afford to lose them. The man brandished his knife and roared, "Look, Dr. Gu's having illicit affairs. He must be suspended immediately." The knife slashed wildly through the air with a clatter. Liang Xia arrived in a hurry, her eyes red from crying. "Yannan, let me explain. I don't know him. You're the only one I love." The man's voice turned hoarse. "You fucking bitch. How dare you lie to me?" Word of this incident spread like wildfire through the small town. The man's blade swung toward Liang Xia's head, prompting Gu Yannan to shield her protectively behind him. "This is a hospital. Calm down immediately. Let's talk this through properly." My mother emerged from the examination room and screamed my name in panic upon seeing the chaos, frantically pulling me away. "Yao Yao." Gu Yannan seemed to hear someone call my name. He looked up nervously, but before I could meet his gaze, Mom pulled me away. "Back home." Mom finally relaxed. "That place was absolute chaos. You're better off staying away from such commotions." "Yao Yao, don't you dare imitate those people at the hospital today, messing around with relationships in such a disgraceful way." I nodded. "I won't, Mom." But Mom didn't know the person involved was Gu Yannan. 11. The hospital incident spread like wildfire. Mom came rushing home in a panic, grabbed my arm and asked, "Yao Yao, thank goodness you're not with Gu Yannan." That situation we witnessed at the hospital last time, it was Gu Yannan with some young girl. Honestly, what was he thinking? The girl already had a boyfriend, yet he had to go and get involved with her. Now look where that's gotten him. Might even lose his job over this mess. That girl's boyfriend made a scene at your school. She might not even graduate now. I never got together with Gu Yannan. Everything just followed its natural course, returning from morning grocery shopping. I saw the old man who often keeps watch at the alley entrance sitting there with a wooden stool. A few children gathered around him, waiting for him to light the iron stove. The stove held crushed corn kernels. With a loud pop, the popcorn burst forth, the air filled with the aroma of popcorn. At the doorstep, Gu Yannan stood waiting. A scar marked his forehead, and his hands were wrapped in white bandages. His gaze turned peculiar when he looked at me. The corners of his eyes glistened with an ambiguous, unreadable look. "Xia Yao, did you hear everything that day? Don't listen to what others say." My heart skipped a beat. "I don't know about you and Liang Xia. No need to tell me." "Xia Yao, I don't have feelings for her anymore." I gave a faint smile. "Who you like has nothing to do with me." The sky darkened as rain began to fall, the downpour growing steadily heavier. Just as I was about to step inside, a woman's voice called out from behind, "Brother Yannan, could you help me one last time? He's at my place. I'm scared. Please stay with me." Gu Yannan turned back with a complicated expression, calling out to me, "Xia Yao, wait for me to come back." "Okay." I ignored him and walked into the house without looking back. As I turned to close the door, I saw Gu Yannan draping his coat over Liang Xia's shoulders, sighing helplessly as he shielded her while they left. 12. The rain poured all night, and Mom watched the gloomy sky outside with concern. "Yao Yao is leaving the day after tomorrow. What are we going to do about this weather?" Dad reassured me. "The radio said it'll clear up the day after tomorrow, might even be sunny. Don't worry about it." The next day, the skies cleared. My parents treated me to a celebratory dinner at a restaurant. Seeing the pride and joy on my parents' faces made me happy too. 13. After the banquet, Aunt Gu and Uncle Gu left in a flustered hurry. Turns out Gu Yannan and Liang Xia's affair had escalated to the hospital administration. It all happened at the hotel next to the restaurant. They shared a bed together last night. Gu Yannan looked at me in a panic. He rushed out frantically trying to stop me, but Dad blocked him and quickly led me away. Gu Yannan called my name with a trembling voice. "Xia Yao, wait for me." He and Liang Xia ended up at the police station after their altercation. When Gu Yannan came to, he was completely disoriented. He claimed Liang Xia had given him a glass of water, and after drinking it, he blacked out, but he swore nothing had happened between him and Liang Xie. Later, Liang Xie said with teary eyes and a pitiful voice, "Brother Yan Nan, you have to take responsibility for me." Biting her lip with disheveled hair, she looked utterly fragile and vulnerable. I don't know what happened either, if this matter isn't handled properly. Gu Yannan will lose his job at the top-tier hospital. The institution offered a solution out of respect for Aunt Gu and Uncle Gu. Either Yannan gets fired, or the two get married to settle things. Not marrying would damage the institution's reputation, leaving Yannan with no choice but termination plus a financial penalty. Gu Yannan refused to marry, but Liang Xie stubbornly insisted she'd been wronged. 14. The night before departure, I lay awake, torn between reluctance and anticipation. Ready to embrace the new chapter of my life, as I wheeled my suitcase out of the alleyway, a beam of light fell across my face. Gu Yannan stood before me, blocking the light. I glared at him with displeasure. Stubble shadowed his jaw overnight, dark circles bruised his eyes, his nose and eyes were faintly reddened, as if he'd been crying. His voice trembled on the last syllable. "Xia Yao, what if we got married?" I looked at him and couldn't help but find it ridiculous. "What makes you think I'd want someone with such loose morals? A homewrecker who sleeps around?" His eyes instantly dimmed, looking utterly lost, panicked. He blurted out, "There's nothing between us." Liang Xie admitted she drugged me with sleeping pills, but nothing happened between us. Gu Yannan, I don't like him. What happened between us doesn't matter anymore. I dragged my suitcase forward. A voice called from behind, "Guze, do you remember? Guze was our child's name in our past life." My body went rigid, a chill running down my spine. Gu Yannan also remembered our previous existence. "Yao Yao, you knew all along, didn't you? So in this lifetime, you don't want me to take responsibility for you, but Yao Yao, I love you." Trembling all over, I stared at him coldly. "Gu Yannan, I don't love you. You disgust me. My life would have been better without you. You're the worst mistake I've ever made. I'd be better off without you." Gu Yannan stared at me, his slightly reddened eyes burning with resentment and despair, his voice hoarse as he clenched his fists. "It's me. I've wronged you and our child," I said. "Don't you dare spread lies. I'm an unmarried maiden. How could I possibly have a child? Your own promiscuity is no excuse to tarnish my reputation." His lips trembled with bitterness before he suddenly crouched down, burying his face in his hands as sobs racked his body. Mom and Dad came running after me, insisting on accompanying me by train and ferry. Snow began to fall as we boarded the ship. A timely snow promises a fruitful year. 15. Living abroad. I occasionally received letters from my parents. Through these letters, I learned that Gu Yannan was ultimately forced to marry Liang Xie. Liang Xie caused a scene at Aunt Gu and Uncle Gu's workplace, nearing retirement age. The couple's reputation and retirement plans were severely impacted by this incident. Liang threatened suicide, and fearing a bigger scandal, the Gu family pressured them into marriage. Though Gu Yannan was married, the hospital ultimately dismissed him after much deliberation due to his hand injury and the commotion caused by Liang Xie. Given a second chance at life, Gu Yannan fulfilled the dreams that eluded him in his previous existence. Meeting someone too extraordinary in youth dooms one to lifelong regret. Now the very person who dazzled his youth is married to him, yet he finds no joy in it. He got the one who dazzled him in his youth, only to have the rest of his life ruined. Their marriage was fraught with conflicts, often escalating into physical violence. Liang Xie wailed in regret, "If I'd known you'd be this useless, can't even hold down a job. I'd rather die than marry you." Gu Yannan squatted on the ground, his face etched with exhaustion. "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been ruined like this." Liang Xie screamed in rage, her hair disheveled and clothes stained. She dropped out of college to marry Gu Yannan, only to end up jobless, her youthful vibrancy gone. That radiant glow of youth vanished, leaving nothing but bitterness in its wake. Gu Yannan also lost his job at the hospital. The two lived in resentment until one day, Liang Xie regretted her choices and reconnected with her ex-boyfriend, cheating on Gu Yannan. Upon learning of this, Gu Yannan showed no anger. He simply filed for divorce. "Comrade Gu kindly saved me, but I won't hold him responsible." Yike shines brilliantly at this moment. 16. Gu Yannan side story. In my past life, I deeply regretted marrying Xia Yao out of spite with Liang Xie. I secretly requested a transfer to Tibet to work alongside Liang Xie. When Liang Xie had a child, I willingly helped take care of the baby. Only after being reborn did I realize how much Xia Yao had suffered all those years. She mistakenly thought Liang Xie's husband was a medical dispute patient of mine, having once saved her life. She didn't hesitate to take a knife for me, losing fingers in the process. leaving her unable to lift heavy objects or write for prolonged periods. She raised the child alone. When our baby fell ill during that crucial first year when she needed me most, I was busy tending to Liang Xia's child instead. She came to Tibet with our child who got altitude sickness and a fever, yet I was busy taking care of Liang Xia's kid instead. When Guze saw me, he said, "You're not my dad, I want to go home." Hearing those words, my heart raced with unease and sorrow. Now I'm filled with regret, longing to return to that year, watching her struggle to raise the child from a third-person perspective. My heart ached with bitter anguish. If it weren't for me, she wouldn't be living such a wretched life. By the time I reincarnated, it was already too late. I'd already lost her. She returned to the present even earlier than I did. No wonder she refused my responsibility so decisively. She'd stopped loving me long ago. Only when I got together with Liang Xia did I realize she was nothing like the perfect girl I'd imagined. Our lives have fallen into complete disarray. I lost my job and suffered a permanent hand injury, while Xiaoyao's life kept getting better and wealthier. While job hunting, I ran into her, dressed to the nines, but I couldn't bear her seeing me in such wretched state, so I immediately hid. It's too late for everything. Next story. I am the villain's white moonlight wife who died young. On the 10th year after death, I was revived by the system. It wants me to redeem the now corrupted him, but I've lost all my memories. So when I spotted that villain from afar, before I could even get close, I was immediately driven away by his subordinates. As I was thrown to the ground in disgrace, several lines of bullet comments suddenly appeared before my eyes. Here we go again. I've lost count of how many have come to save the villain by now. For so many years, the system has arranged countless substitute strategists to stabilize the villain, fearing he might destroy this world. Some resembled the villain's deceased wife in appearance. Some matched her personality, and there were even those who came fully prepared with all of her memories. But without exception, they all failed. How many days can such an ordinary one like this last? 1. When the system brought me through, the villain who affects the stability of the entire world line, already 34 years old, with a son around 10 years of age, and I awoke from my slumber, know nothing, remember nothing. I only know my name is Sun Nua, and I'm 23 years old. This was just told to me by the system. Besides that, it repeatedly warned me about how dangerous that villain is. Don't let me be like those past strategists. Just entered this world, and already lost my life. The system said that villain is called Qin Jinnan, standing at the pinnacle of wealth and power in this world. He's cruel and ruthless, like a ferocious beast. The only shred of conscience left was probably reserved for his still young son. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, lost in thought. I just whispered softly, "I don't think I have anything special that would impress that villain." The system watched me in silence. After a long pause, he said meaningfully, "You're the last chance, if even you can't." His words trailed off there. Then he said firmly, "No, you must succeed." 2. The system's countless warnings weren't wrong, because I had just transmigrated into this world, and had just managed to catch a distant glimpse of Qin Jinnan, was immediately noticed by the several burly black-suited bodyguards following him. Qin Jinnan was dressed entirely in black, with an overcoat draped over his shoulders. He stood at the school gate, waiting for his son to finish classes. He didn't even glance in my direction. I gazed at his sharply chiseled profile, half veiled in coldness. An uncontrollable peculiar emotion sprouted from the depths of my heart. This emotion made one sorrowful to the point of tears. I found myself inexplicably frozen in place, didn't even notice his bodyguard had approached. When thrown heavily against the wall, excruciating pain radiated from every part of my body. His bodyguard had a menacing look. Before leaving, he threw a threat at me, "Don't look at people you shouldn't." He gave me a cold glance as I lay in a pathetic heap on the ground. He said, "If there's a next time, it won't be this simple." 3. Snow suddenly began to fall from the sky at that moment. I hugged my injured arm and leaned against the corner of the wall. From a distance, Qin Jinnan had already picked up his son. Even after seeing his son, not a trace of a smile appeared on his face. He simply put out the cigarette in his hand, lowered his gaze, and took his son's hand. The two of them turned and got into the car. Perhaps my gaze was too intense. Just before boarding, the boy suddenly turned his head and looked straight at me. I was covered in a mixture of blood and snow. What a sorry sight, yet subconsciously, he still flashed a gentle smile at that exceptionally handsome boy. The boy's gaze was as indifferent as his father's, calmly sizing me up. He only glanced at me once. The bodyguard had already turned sideways to open the car door. The door slowly closed before my eyes as the car drove away without looking back. 4. It felt like my heart suddenly missed a beat. A profound sense of weightlessness washed over me. I haven't had time to ponder the origin of this strange emotion of mine. Suddenly, several lines of white text appeared before my eyes. Those words streamed densely and rapidly across my vision. Yet another new strategist has appeared. Over the past decade, I've lost count of how many dozens or hundreds this makes. The system is truly terrified of the villainous brother, fearing he might destroy the entire world in a fit of displeasure. Hence it tries every possible means to place people by his side, but the villainous brother only loves his deceased wife. Over the years, the system has sent countless replacement strategists to the villain's side. Some resembled the villain's deceased wife in appearance, some matched her personality, and there were even those who came fully prepared with all of her memories. 5. I stared at the barrage of comments flashing rapidly before my eyes. I lightly furrowed my brows. Forgetting even to blink, the so-called villain brother they mentioned must be Qin Jinnan, the one threatening the stability of this entire world, and those failed strategists from the past are probably the reason why the system repeatedly warned me about Qin Jinnan's danger. The system likely exhausted all possible methods, so why does he think someone as mediocre as me could complete the mission and keep Qin Jinnan under control? As I thought this, the text before me gradually shifted the topic to me, but to be honest, what's kept the villain brother in check all these years was never some substitute or strategist. It must be the son left to him by his deceased wife. His late wife departed without a trace, leaving only this son behind. This is also the villain's sole remaining connection to the entire world now. Otherwise, given the villain's madness in those early years, he might have already destroyed the world and himself, joining his deceased wife in death. That's why every single strategist failed without exception. After all, the deceased wife was the antagonist's white moonlight. She was the only pure land in his heart. The antagonist won't allow anyone to tarnish her by impersonating her face and identity. That's why those imposters died more miserably one after another. What about this one right here? This utterly ordinary, unprepared, completely unremarkable strategist. How many days can she even last? They even started placing bets. I bet on her next meeting with the villain guy. That will be her death day. I'll take that bet. Then I'll follow the bet. Someone else sent a laughing emoji. No, she fell pretty hard just now. Heavy snow started falling again. Whether she can survive this ordeal remains unknown. 6. I lowered my eyes, ignoring the dense text mocking me, only staring at my own bloody wounds. But contrary to everyone's expectations, getting involved with Qin Jinnan again. It was actually his son who came looking for me. I don't know how he found me. All I know is, when I opened the door of my cheap motel room this morning, I saw him standing alone at my doorstep with his backpack, looking at his indifferent face that bore such a striking resemblance to his father's. I gently paused my steps. He slightly raised his head, his gaze fixed straight on my face. Who are you? He asked me in a low voice. How strange. He came to my door. But his first question was asking who I was. My name is Sun Nua. I answered his question earnestly nonetheless. The moment my words fell, his brow furrowed deeply. 7. The white text before his eyes showed no sign of stopping. The moment I finished speaking, they burst into synchronized mockery. Has the system completely given up? Looked for someone with a similar appearance. Looked for someone with a similar personality. This is the first time I've so blatantly brought a strategist with the exact same name into the world. The system really isn't afraid of the villain getting angry and throwing a fit. It's practically delivering the strategist right to the antagonist's doorstep, saying, "You want Sun Nua? Well, I brought Sun Nua back to you." Unlike those lively, bustling narratives, the boy before me showed not a trace of a smile on his face. He simply stated calmly, "My name is Sun Yen." As he finished speaking, his gaze fixed more intently on me. It even seemed like he was observing, waiting for my reaction. Sun Nua, Sun Yen. His name is strikingly similar to mine. Combine the content revealed by those white texts. Perhaps, Qin Jinnan's deceased wife was named Sun Nua. 8. But in my mind, there is only blankness. I couldn't give Sun Yen any reaction she desired. His burning gaze fixed on me gradually cooled. Someone came running hurriedly from the direction of the elevator. The middle-aged man in a suit stood half a head taller than Sun Yen, yet he stopped before Sun Yen, bending at the waist with his head lowered, with a sincere tone. "Young master, the car is waiting downstairs. You'll be late for class." Sun Yen gently lowered her dark eyelashes, as if disappointed. Then he turned around neatly and was about to leave, but as he turned, his movements hesitated for a moment. His brows lightly furrowed again. He looked at the glass window across the hallway and said, "You should go get your injuries treated." Following his gaze, I looked at the rough gauze wrapped around my arm and right leg in the mirror. After transmigrating, the system didn't give me any golden fingers. The little money I have left can barely cover food and shelter. There's absolutely no way I can afford hospital treatment. Sun Yan has already left. My gaze swept across the glass window, looking at the blurred reflection of my own face upon it. 9. There's a mottled scar on my right cheek. The system claims I died in a fire 10 years ago. The system's energy is supplied by the world, but the villain Qin Jinnan is vengeful to the extreme. His wife died in an accident linked to the male and female protagonists. Without distinguishing right from wrong, he took revenge on everyone involved in that accident, including the male and female protagonists, the chosen ones of Heaven's will, who had already died 5 years ago. After the protagonists' deaths, the world fell into the grasp of the antagonist Qin Jinnan. Even the system itself was barely surviving. Its energy is always insufficient, so it can only restore my body to about 80% of its original state. My body is relatively healthy, but there are still various unhealed burns of different sizes all over my body. I gazed at the unfamiliar face in the mirror. It was truly an ordinary, even ugly face. To choose me as the strategist for such a villain, I could see no hope whatsoever. No wonder those white words were filled with mockery towards me. 10. But whether there's hope or not, I still have to conquer Qin Jinnan. This is the purpose of the system reviving me. It was also the only way I could keep living. But to conquer Qin Jinnan, I had to first solve my own imminent survival problem. I tried every means possible at the bookstore downstairs from Qin Jinnan's company, found a job as a librarian, worked the night shift until midnight. The lights in the building across the street were still blazing. I sat on the steps outside the bookstore, opening a boxed meal that had already gone cold. At 12:07, Qin Jinnan's black Bentley glided past my eyes. The Bentley's tinted windows blocked all my view. I knew Qin Jinnan was sitting inside that car, because those white text fragments before my eyes were buzzing with discussion. They seemed to have an extra pair of eyes compared to me. Able to see Qin Jinnan inside through the car window, and use this as an opportunity to direct their sarcastic remarks at me. The system has completely given up, and it seems this lady has too. Other transmigrators who enter this world try every possible way to get close to the villain, whether to make their presence known or find a breakthrough point. She's doing just fine, even leisurely looking for a job and living her own life. Were you scared by the villain's bodyguards when you first met? So I'm just supposed to watch her organize bookshelves every day. If you're this useless, you shouldn't have agreed to take on this system's conquest mission in the first place. I lowered my eyes, no longer looking at those emotionally charged words. Only then did I notice a stray dog wagging its tail, eagerly approaching me. I gave it the only 2 pieces of meat from my lunchbox. Together with it, we shared this boxed meal under the night sky. 11. Worked at the bookstore for nearly a month. When the wounds on my body had mostly healed, only then did I unexpectedly see Qin Jinnan again. At 11 p.m., the bookstore owner asked me to deliver a stack of packaged books to the building across the street. After passing through the security guards' rigorous checks and interrogations, I finally stepped into that building for the first time. After handing the book to the client, I prepared to leave. The office building was quiet at night, with most people already off work. So while waiting for the elevator, I faintly heard subtle movements coming from the end of the hallway. It sounded like the noise someone makes when in extreme pain. The elevator took forever to arrive. I turned my head and looked toward the end of the corridor. The words before me screamed at me to mind my own business. They even gave me advice, suggesting I take this opportunity to go down to the underground parking lot, to lie in wait for Qin Jinnan getting off work. But I could hear that faint, pained, hoarse voice, standing silently in place for a long while. He finally turned and walked toward the end of the corridor. 12. But no one could have anticipated, curled up at the stairwell of the emergency exit, sitting under the pale fluorescent light, was Qin Jinnan. He wore a pure black shirt and dress pants, his shoulders broad and back straight, yet it was an uncommonly fragile appearance. As I opened the emergency exit door, he had already turned his head with alertness. Beads of sweat from intense pain dotted his temples, but the gaze he fixed upon me was filled entirely with indifference and wariness. I seemed to have stumbled upon a scene I shouldn't have seen. My footsteps froze on the spot, yet under Qin Jinnan's gaze, I could only muster the courage to ask, "Should I call a doctor for you?" Qin Jinnan continued staring coldly at me without uttering a word. I had to raise my hand to press the white mask tighter against my face, because of the scars on my face. I'm afraid of frightening customers and children. In daily life when I'm outside, I always wear a white face covering mask. His gaze carried immense pressure. I already wanted to step back and leave, but seeing the veins bulging at his temples from the intense pain, looking at his pale, thin lips, For some inexplicable reason, a sense of compassion welled up inside me, so I still took a step forward and pulled out the painkillers from my pocket. I never went to a proper hospital to see a doctor for the injuries from some time ago. When the pain became unbearable, I relied on chewing painkillers to get through it. The painkillers I always carry in my bag actually came in handy at this moment. 13. Under Qin Jinnan's gaze, I placed a pill by his side. As I turned to leave, he unexpectedly grabbed my wrist. His palm was icy cold, sending chills down my spine. I had no choice but to lower my gaze to look at him. We stood so close that our eyes met. "Who are you?" he finally rasped out. The lighting wasn't bright enough, yet I still caught a fleeting glimmer of light in his dark pupils. His movements were too fast, completely disregarding whether I agreed or not. He had already casually hooked off the mask hanging on my face. Qin Jinnan's pupils were pitch black, reflecting the vivid scar on my face. Too close, so I saw his eyes tremble slightly. My face is still too frightening. I raised my hand to hook the mask back on, saw his palm seem to suddenly lose strength. Dangling a silver necklace, was just tightly clenched in his icy palm. The necklace was adorned with a silver watch face. At the center of the watch face, there was faintly the image of a smiling girl's face. I averted my gaze and didn't look any further. Left the pills behind and walked away. This time, Qin Jinnan didn't stop me. Before leaving, I turned back for one last look at the doorway. Qin Jinnan remained seated in the same spot. He was clad in solemn black, yet entirely despondent. 14. Those white words are criticizing me again. They call me foolish, saying I don't get it, I give up. She's honestly the most useless protagonist I've ever encountered. She just stumbled upon incredible luck with that perfect opportunity. And she didn't even know how to seize it. She just left like that. Shouldn't we stay there and comfort the antagonist a bit? After finally meeting face to face in a private setting, she just left like that. What on earth is she doing? Some of those writings go even further. Still fanning the flames, I thought I should be more direct, throw myself into Qin Jinnan's arms, and use the most vulgar means to seduce him. Anyway, I'm doomed. Someone like me could never complete the conquest mission anyway. They can't wait for me to anger Qin Jinnan sooner and meet my demise. They don't want to see another strategist like me anymore. I died, naturally. A new, capable strategist will take my place. 15. The bookstore owner signed a long-term contract with the client in the building across the street. I often volunteered to run errands there. Occasionally, I could catch a glimpse of Qin Jinnan's figure from afar. He always wore black, with not a trace of any other color on him. The only exception was the occasional glimpse of a white shirt collar at his neck. His steps were always hurried, followed by a crowd of suit-clad, bowing subordinates. What he showed to others was his cold and unapproachable demeanor. Not a trace remained of that night's pallor and vulnerability. Sometimes when passing by the office area, I overhear employees gossiping in the break room. They say in the terrifying boss's office, there isn't a single vibrant color to be seen. Not even a fresh flower can be found. The entire decor is oppressive shades of gray and black. It was no secret in the company that Qin Jinnan's wife had passed away early, perhaps because his son often appeared at the company, or perhaps because of that plain ring on his finger, never once taken off. So they even began to speculate, is Qin Jinnan living like an ascetic, keeping vigil for his deceased wife, carrying a heavy stack of books? I silently walked through the glamorous crowd with my head down. I suddenly began to question whether agreeing to pursue Qin Jinnan was the right or wrong decision. 16. It's been over 2 months since I transmigrated into this world. From what I've learned, Qin Jinnan was indeed deeply devoted to his deceased wife. No wonder so many suitors before me have failed in their attempts. My progress in this conquest seems hopeless. Those white characters probably saw through my incompetence. Now they hardly pay any attention to me or scold me. My very existence seems to be tarnishing the love between Qin Jinnan and his deceased wife. I have no past, and it seems I have no future either. Should I really continue this seemingly hopeless pursuit? I lowered my head, lost in deep thought. The book I was holding was too thick, blocking part of my view. Not paying attention to the book's edge, I bumped into a beautiful woman wearing a white suit dress and holding coffee. Most of the coffee spilled onto the book, while the rest splashed onto the woman's snow-white blouse. I kept my head down, busily wiping the books while apologizing to the woman in front of me. The woman's voice turned shrill as she frowned and grabbed my arm. "Who let you in here?" I explained that I was from the bookstore downstairs. The woman sneered. "I've never heard of any possible collaboration between our company and some shabby little bookstore." 17. More and more people turned their gaze towards us. Still bowing my head, I kept apologizing to the woman, saying, "Your clothes, I'll wash them for you, or I'll buy you a new one. Can you even afford to?" The woman looked at me disdainfully. Her nails were sharp, easily pulling at my hair and yanking off my mask. The mask fell off, completely revealing my face. At that moment, I heard someone gasp behind me, "You." The beautiful woman in front of me froze mid-sentence. I closed my eyes briefly, raising my hand to adjust the mask, hiding the awkward emotions. "I'm sorry." I bowed my head and apologized to her again. "I'll accept whatever way you want to handle this matter." In the silence of the room, the elevator door suddenly emitted a crisp beep sound. At this moment, the doors automatically slid open on both sides as someone stepped out of the elevator cabin. A tall figure cast its shadow at my feet. 18. "It's the subscription contract I signed with their bookstore." Qin Jinnan's voice was low and cool, devoid of any human warmth, yet at the moment the words fell, it bowed the heads of everyone present. What came to its senses before I did were those white characters, line after dense line, crowding my vision. But this time, the content of those words was quite simple and uniform, nothing but question marks, filling the entire screen. Which episode did I miss? I was just not speaking. Not dead. Can someone tell me what's going on now, Dylan bro? How did you suddenly appear? No way, I've been watching this lady every day. What else could she possibly be doing that I don't know about? When I looked up in a daze, Qin Jinnan's black leather shoes had already stopped right by my feet. A cold sensation touched my wrist. It was Qin Jinnan suddenly grabbing hold of me. He circled my wrist with a force that brooked no resistance. I didn't dare, nor could I break free from Qin Jinnan's grasp. As I raised my hand, the stack of books I was holding scattered noisily across the floor. I slowly turned my head and found myself lost in Qin Jinnan's pitch-black eyes. He slightly lowered his head, staring straight into my eyes with an intense, profound gaze. But just as I tried to discern the emotions in his eyes, he suddenly turned his head away without a trace. "Same as always, no improvement at all," he said about me, uttering such words. The hand gripping my wrist showed not the slightest sign of loosening. 19. With Qin Jinnan's appearance, the course of events instantly changed. The system and those texts had described Qin Jinnan's terror to me countless times. But this was the first time I witnessed Qin Jinnan's cruelty and tyranny with my own eyes. He didn't listen to a single word of the woman's explanation. With a faint raise of his hand, he summoned the bodyguards. The woman was dragged out of the floor. No one dared to say no, nor even lift their heads to glance at us. The Qin Jinnan before me was dangerous and inscrutable. I watched helplessly as that woman disappeared from this floor. Raising my head slightly, I saw Qin Jinnan curl his lips into an inexplicable smile. That smile of his was directed at me. His cool fingertips gently caressed my wrist. At the same time, he lowered his head and said to me, "I just got you out of that awkward situation." He asked me leisurely, "How are you going to thank me?" 20. As soon as Qin Jinnan spoke, those white characters once again flooded my vision with uniform question marks. I'd rather believe the villainous brother was possessed than accept he genuinely fell for this woman. "Wait, you rejected the beautiful ones, the emotionally intelligent ones, even the one who looked identical to your late wife, and now you're telling me she's special. Why?" The key point is, this lady has been here for so long, yet hasn't seriously done a single thing to actively pursue the targets. So why exactly is that? I'm even more confused than those indignant words. Don't understand the sudden change in Qin Jinnan's attitude towards me. Don't understand his inexplicable words. Don't understand his sudden appearance. Nor do I understand that smile on his face now. Perhaps it had been too long since he last smiled. For the curve at the corner of his lips looked particularly stiff, as if he had to carefully angle his reflection in the mirror before pulling up the corners of his mouth, until he led me into the elevator. Stepping onto the 36th floor, I didn't give Qin Jinnan any other reaction. 21. Qin Jinnan's office occupies the southeast corner, with the entire floor opened up, facing the river on two sides. The view is exceptionally clear and expansive, but just as the rumors say, his office is draped in dark tones, extremely oppressive. I was pulled by Qin Jinnan to sit on the black leather sofa indoors, watching him take out a damp towel, squat in front of me, and carefully wipe away the coffee stains on my hands. From beginning to end, I neither had nor dared to refuse Qin Jinnan. I lowered my eyes to look at him, his sharp, piercing eyebrows pressed down slightly, unexpectedly revealing a gentle curve. He held a towel, wiping my hand finger by finger with his thumb. I looked at Qin Jinnan before me and murmured softly, "Will you?" He tilted his head to look at me and let out a questioning hum. I swallowed hard, suppressing my fearful heartbeat. I asked him, "What will you do to her?" 22. Qin Jinnan has a notorious reputation. He acts without any rhyme or reason. It was me who bumped into that beautiful woman first. If she suffers because of this, my conscience won't get over this hurdle, but I'm still afraid of Qin Jinnan, so when I voiced the question, I instinctively clenched my fingers. My fingers were gently pried open as Qin Jinnan suddenly let out a chuckle. What are you thinking about? He reached up and ruffled my hair. He said, of course I only fired her. The dense white text before my eyes was filled entirely with exclamations and questions. It's already unreadable, amusing. It's been almost 10 years, and this is the first time I've known the villain brother can smile. Just fired, no matter how I hear it. I just can't believe it. The last person dragged away like this by bodyguards was this sister. That time, even without the villain brother's orders, this sister was beaten half to death. The villain actually brought someone into his private territory. Is he really interested in her? I honestly can't see what's so special about this woman. Is this suddenly turning into a domineering CEO falling for an ordinary ugly duckling? 23. Who told you something? Qin Jinnan looked at me. That inexplicable smile on his face seemed to never fade away. He was still holding my hand and said, you seem to have some misunderstanding about me. His words were too suggestive. It instantly reminded me of the system's repeated warnings before I transmigrated here. I remained silent, just shaking my head slightly. Qin Jinnan acted as if proving his innocence. He said in front of me, I don't have a hobby of intentionally hurting people. He said, it's just that my employee was really impolite. So I fired her. I remembered when I first arrived, just because I glanced at him a little too long. I was thrown into the corner by his bodyguard, remained silent without making a sound. Qin Jinnan had already stood up. He draped his black overcoat over my shoulders. Come with me to a place, Qin Jinnan said. 24. Qin Jinnan actually took me to a private hospital. Perhaps he had someone clear the place in advance. The entire hospital floor had no other patients, only a group of doctors on standby. When Qin Jinnan sent me for a full-body checkup, only then did I suddenly realize it had been a long time since I'd seen the original group of bodyguards who threw me against the wall by his side. By the time I finished all the examinations, the sky had turned completely dark. Qin Jinnan was exceptionally patient. He wore just a black shirt, with his overcoat draped over his arm, waiting for me outside the door. When the doctor approached us, Qin Jinnan merely lowered his eyes and rolled up my sleeve. He asked the doctor, can these scars be removed? I looked at my arm covered with layers of old and new scars. The doctor's gloved fingers lightly touched my arm. He pointed at several wounds on my arm. These fresh wounds can be treated, but the old scars from adulthood. The doctor stopped speaking under Qin Jinnan's increasingly cold gaze, only daring to mumble, perhaps we still need to discuss some treatment plans downstairs. 25. When we finally left the hospital, I noticed two doctors following behind us. Qin Jinnan held my hand. Noticing my gaze, he calmly explained, I've arranged for two doctors to care for your body at home. Home? I turned my head to look at Qin Jinnan. Qin Jinnan said with complete naturalness, come home with me. He raised his hand and gently stroked my back, saying, let me take care of you. I swallowed with my dry throat and silently gazed at Qin Jinnan. I can't understand Qin Jinnan's actions. His progress is indeed too fast, so fast that I didn't even have time to react. 26. I thought so. And I voiced it out loud. Why? Qin Jinnan smiled. I know the purpose of you coming to my side, coming to this world. He slowly uttered a few words. You're here, to conquer me. My heart skipped a beat. Qin Jinnan indeed knows everything, as if the entire world is under his control. Then why did you choose me? The words have been laid out. There's no point in hiding or covering up anymore, I said. The system mentioned that dozens to hundreds of strategists have entered this world. Qin Jinnan's fingers gently caressed the back of my hand. We have already stepped into the elevator. With just one glance from him, the assistant, bodyguards, and doctor following behind spontaneously took the elevator on the other side. The elevator doors closed, leaving only Qin Jinnan and me alone in the confined space. We were already close enough, yet he took another step forward, lowered his head slightly, and moved to kiss my eyelids. His gaze was exceptionally earnest, so earnest that it held only me. I turned my head away just a second before he got closer. This was the first time I rejected Qin Jinnan. 27. I thought it would anger Qin Jinnan, expecting his retaliation or punishment, but he didn't. He just naturally kissed the mask surface near my ear. I heard his low voice. Promise, he said, because those strategists are just strategists, and you're just promise. Qin Jinnan uttered these two simple sentences. I was momentarily stunned. The text before my eyes was in complete chaos. dense and countless, a vast expanse of white. Holy crap, after all this cursing. Turns out sis was the actual white moonlight, huh? No wonder the villain dude seemed like he was possessed. So this was the system's final trump card. What about those who previously criticized her for just lazing around after transmigrating? Is there a possibility that even without her doing anything, the villain would come to her on his own? And to top it off, she's the deceased white moonlight. The buffs are stacked to the max. No one knows what method the system used, but it held back for something big and resurrected her in one go. Authentic products are indeed different from counterfeits. Even with lost memories and a wounded face, the villain brother could still recognize her. Does anyone still dare to insult her now? Before, they criticized her for being indecisive. Now they praise her for having the kindness of a white moonlight, struggling to feed herself yet still stopping to feed a stray dog on the street. Before you were criticizing them for being inactive, now you're saying a white moonlight should have this gentle, unhurried personality. Different from those goal-oriented conquerors, after mocking them relentlessly before, now that you know their identity, everyone's starting to kneel and apologize. 28. Promise. The moment Qing Jinnan solemnly uttered my name, countless fragments of light and shadow flashed through my mind, but when I came to my senses and tried to grasp them, there was nothing. My mind remains a blank void. All I know is, it turns out I was the one who made the promise. It turns out I was Sunua, Qing Jinnan's long-deceased wife. I gently raised my eyes, gazing at Qing Jinnan before me. I said, I can't remember anything. I know. Qing Jinnan lowered his head, pressing his forehead lightly against mine. The elevator had already reached the underground level, its doors automatically opening. Qing Jinnan swept me up in his arms. As my feet left the ground, I instinctively reached up to wrap my arms around his neck. I heard his voice say, let's go home first. 29. After I spoke openly. Perhaps seeing I didn't resist, Qing Jinnan had even fewer reservations. He directly carried me from the car back to that unfamiliar, imposing high-rise villa. Stepping through the villa's entrance, the interior lights automatically turned on. As you enter through the main gate, a massive oil painting comes into view. It depicts the face of a young girl. Qing Jinnan followed my gaze, muttering softly, 10 years, it's been too long. So I learned some things to pass the time. The faint sound of piano from upstairs stopped at this moment. Someone pushed the door open and came out. It was Sun Yan. He looks exactly like his father, as if they were cast from the same mold. Even at home, he wears a uniform shirt and trousers, standing on the second floor, looking down at us. 30. I lightly tapped Qing Jinnan's shoulder, wanting him to put me down. Qing Jinnan didn't comply. He only carried me to the sofa in the main hall. He's already 10 years old. He can understand what's being said. Qing Jinnan casually draped his coat aside. I've already made everything clear to him. It only took the time to say a couple of sentences. Sun Yan had already come downstairs. He stood before me, gazing at me from a step away. We both fell silent. I didn't know how to face the fact that he was my son. In the end, Sun Yan was the first to speak. Dad said the house was on fire. They lied to you, telling you I was still trapped inside. And you ran back to look for me. Sun Yan's words ended there. His tone was calm, his words clearly enunciated. As the words fell, tears welled up in his dark eyes. This time, watching Sun Yan's tears, as his words came forth, it was as if I was back in the sea of flames from 10 years ago. I vaguely recalled something. At that time, Sun Yan was still in swaddling clothes. Qing Jinnan didn't seem to be at home. I rushed into the sea of flames to find him, to find my child. The raging fire and thick smoke burned so intensely I couldn't open my eyes, but I still didn't hesitate to head towards the second floor. A collapsed beam struck my back. The flames licked at my hair and face. I never truly walked out of that fire. 31. Family ties are a peculiar thing. Watching Sun Yan's tears, I couldn't help but cry too. Sun Yan took a step forward and gently leaned against my knee. He raised his hand and, under my gaze, softly removed my mask. He stared at the ugly scar on my face. His fingertips lightly touched it. Mommy, he called out, looking up at me. My tears wouldn't stop. Bowed her head and embraced his slender back. Sun Yan, calm and steady, personally raised by his father, in my arms. He burst into loud, wailing sobs. Throughout the process, Qing Jinnan remained seated by my side, keeping watch over me. Look at me quietly and intently, until you hear my suppressed sobs. Only then did he raise his hand to pull Sun Yan away, saying, your mother needs to rest now. 32. At night, I sat by the headboard in the master bedroom flipping through Sun Yan's old photos. Qing Jinnan raised him very well. From birth to now at 10 years old, there are documented photos every year. Qin Jinnan came out of the bathroom. He directly lifted the blanket and sat beside me. I shrank my legs slightly. He had already raised his arm to embrace my waist and back, pulled me into his embrace. Do you know when I confirmed it was really you? I tilted my head to look at him. At midnight on the 23rd last month, you were feeding a dog outside the bookstore, Qin Jinnan said. As the car drove past, I only caught a glimpse of your profile. For nearly 10 years I'd felt no emotional fluctuations, but in that instant, my heart raced so violently it nearly burst from my chest. Qin Jinnan rubbed my hand. But the system is restless. These past 10 years, I've made sure it suffers. While it constantly sets traps for me, I fear it's all a fleeting dream. Or perhaps just a reflection in water. That's why I recognized you, but I didn't dare approach you, afraid that if I got closer, you'd disappear. Qin Jinnan's arms were long and strong, encircling my waist. I leaned passively against his shoulder, glancing at him sideways. I whispered. So, that night in the company's emergency stairwell, you did it on purpose. Qin Jinnan didn't deny it at all, admitting it straightforwardly. I knew it was you, but I was too afraid. Even someone like Qin Jinnan could openly admit to being afraid. Over these 10 years, during countless long nights, I've had many dreams. In them, you felt real, but upon waking, there was nothing left. I'm afraid this might just be another beautiful dream. That's why I observe you, follow you. Even make you appear before me countless times. Only then do I dare reach out and grab hold of you. 33. That night I lay sideways on Qin Jinnan's bed. He lay beside me, holding me close against him. The moonlight was bright, seeping through the window cracks. Qin Jinnan held me as we gazed at the moon together. The stray dog you used to feed, I had someone take it home. It's kept outside the courtyard now. If you like, you can visit it tomorrow. Neither of us felt sleepy. So he was talking to me intermittently, muttering incessantly, as if trying to make up for 10 years' worth of unspoken words. He spoke of how he had raised Sun Yin. He talked about all those strategists the system had sent to his side over the years. He spoke of how much he had missed me all these years. He stroked my hair and said, "Don't rush to recover your memories. I'll slowly tell you everything you want to know." I turned gently and nestled into his embrace. Why was I resurrected by the system? I asked Qin Jinnan softly. Did you make some kind of deal with it? Qin Jinnan's gaze froze. 34. I've been pondering this question all along. Both Qin Jinnan and the system are aware of each other's existence. Perhaps they could even communicate in some way. The original male and female protagonists of this world died years ago, yet the world continues to operate normally. The system was left barely functioning after Qin Jinnan's meddling. It should hate Qin Jinnan, yet they still chose to revive me. Then my revival could only be the inevitable outcome orchestrated by Qin Jinnan. I voiced my question aloud. Qin Jinnan paused briefly, then gently smoothed my bangs while chuckling softly. He gazed into my eyes and gently kissed the scar on my cheek. He whispered to me, "So clever. In the first 2 years after you left, after I killed the destined male and female leads, I discovered the operating rules of this world. The world's operation requires energy, which was previously supplied and maintained by the male and female leads. With the death of the male and female leads, the world should have descended into complete chaos, but I forced the system to emerge. The system revealed that thriving economic development and population growth are also the energy sources that sustain the world and its existence. So all these years, I've been expanding my business empire, aggressively developing across all industries. I supply energy to the system. I demanded to revive you." I blinked, gazing at Qin Jinnan's gentle face before me. The man before me was completely different from the ruthless deity described by the system. Their communication could never be as harmonious as Qin Jinnan claimed. The business empire he built over the past decade, vast enough to sustain the entire world and the system, could never have been achieved as effortlessly as he made it sound. So I asked aloud, "You're exploiting its weakness, threatening it." Qin Jinnan held the back of my neck and chuckled. "Yes, I can provide the energy it needs to survive, and I can also completely destroy it. It's been accustomed to being superior, but now I'm forcing its hand, so naturally it resents me. That's why over the years, it's intermittently sent many smokescreens my way, those so-called strategists. Even this time, it didn't heal you." Qin Jinnan narrowed his eyes slightly, a dangerous glint flashing briefly within them. Qin Jinnan gently touched my wounds. "But this is my problem. I'll find a way to cure you. As for the system, I won't let it off either." Qin Jinnan unexpectedly spoke such words in front of me, yet I no longer felt afraid, just lightly covered her lips and chuckled. "At noon, you were still claiming your innocence in front of me." Qin Jinnan also smiled. "I don't know how the system described me to you. I was afraid you might fear me." He let out a soft sigh, gazing at me earnestly. He said, "Sunua, I will never hurt you. Don't be afraid of me." 35. That night, Qin Jinnan held me as I fell asleep. He seemed insecure, his arms tightly encircling my waist, like clinging vines growing upon me. I was kept half awake by his pestering. I had many, many dreams. That night, for the first time, I clearly saw the chaotic contents of those dreams. I remembered those years when Qin Jinnan and I depended on each other for survival. I grew up with him in the orphanage. When I turned 12, the orphanage director attempted to molest me. Qin Jinnan plunged a sharp dagger deep into the director's thigh. He crippled the director by taking one of his legs, took me away from that dark place. 36. Those years, Qin Jinnan and I actually had a very hard time. We lived in a leaking basement, sharing the same bowl of rice. Survival is already a very difficult thing, so in those years, Qin Jinnan would do anything and use anyone. He just would never hurt me. He raised me and sent me to school. I brought up countless times that the tuition fees are too high, and that I could start working to earn money together with him, but Qin Jinnan would only hold me tighter with his scar-covered arms. He said no. That was the only no he ever said to me. The dream replayed the emotions I felt back then. It was all worry and depression. My whole heart was hung on Qin Jinnan, fearful that he might sustain new injuries again. Afraid he might not come home for another 10 days or half a month. Afraid he might step into the abyss himself, yet kept it from me, telling me nothing. The year I got into university, Qin Jinnan's career took a turning point. After years of lying low, he overthrew the group's leader in one move and took the top position. By that time, we were no longer short of money. During my college years, I had privately advised Qin Jinnan several times. Say I'm already in college and will soon be able to work and earn money. Say we don't need such a luxurious life. Say I just want to spend the rest of my life peacefully with him. I don't want him to be trapped in the center of darkness. All men have the desire to expand their territory, but Qin Jinnan always respected my opinions the most, so in the year I graduated from university, he married me and promised to carve out a clean path for us, spend the rest of your life with me. But in those years, Qin Jinnan offended countless people. He let others go, but others wouldn't let him go. He married me. I was the living target. I died in a great fire, a conspiracy in which both the male and female leads were involved. 37. In the 2 years after my death, Qin Jinnan completely lost control. He indiscriminately took revenge on everyone involved in that accident. Then he broke through the world's restrictions, exposed the system hiding behind the scenes. Only then did we realize we were merely living in a story revolving around the male and female leads. Only then did I understand that the suffering we endured, the love we experienced, even my death, were nothing more than background settings for the male and female leads. Qin Jinnan discovered the truth of the world. Thus began the following 10 years. Moreover, it repeatedly warned about the dangers of that antagonist. My time 38, I awoke from my dream, tears at the corner of my eyes. I turned my face and saw Qin Jinnan beside me. He was keeping watch by my side, frowning slightly as he gazed at me. It seemed no more words could be spoken. I just turned my face away and buried it in his chest, gently wrapped my arms around his back. Qin Jinnan, I whispered his name. The person I was holding trembled slightly. Even after a decade apart, our unspoken understanding remains as strong as ever. I softly called out. He already knew I'd regained all my memories. Qin Jinnan slowly raised his arms and embraced me in return. He applied pressure slowly, as if trying to meld me into his very being. Promise, he whispered by my ear. I've missed you so much. Promise. The response, a decade overdue, finally arrived. I leaned against his chest and whispered, I'm here. Story 2. The junior schoolmate drew the truth or dare challenge and took the initiative to kiss my boyfriend, Duan Xiao. I broke up with him in public, but he just thought I was being petulant. Don't be such a spoilsport. If it were you kissing someone else for the game, I wouldn't care at all. Duan Xiao just believed that a good girl like me wouldn't do anything out of line. In the next round, his brother, Fu Xizhou, the heartthrob of the finance department, also drew a truth or dare challenge. Take a girl to spend the night together. He slowly reached out his hand towards me and smiled with a curve of his lips. Do you want to give it a try with me tonight? Finally, I placed my hand in his palm and agreed. That night, Duan Xiao called me until my phone was about to explode. 01. The content of Xinying's truth or dare challenge was, please choose any boy present and kiss him for 3 minutes. The next second, her eyes landed directly on Duan Xiao beside me. Everyone looked over along her line of sight. Duan Xiao just lowered his eyes and played with my palm, as if he couldn't feel that scorching gaze. Shining asked me timidly, "Senior, can I borrow Senior Duan for 3 minutes?" The air was so quiet that it seemed as if everyone had softened their breathing, nervously and expectantly watching this showdown. I really didn't understand. There are so many single boys here, why don't you ask someone else? She was speechless, biting her lower lip and showing an embarrassed look, but she still moved to the other side of the booth to ask other men. They all refused one by one until the third boy. "I'm okay with it." The boy smiled lewdly. A French kiss. Shining was so embarrassed that she was about to cry and kept shaking her head. "No need, no need." The boy had drunk a little too much and directly grabbed Shinying's hand, boldly about to kiss her. Duan Xiao, who had been acting nonchalant beside me, finally stopped pretending. He let go of my hand, stood up, and pulled Shining back. He sneered and questioned, "Is it interesting to bully a little girl?" Shining tightly held Duan Xiao's hand and looked at him for help. At the same time, I also grabbed his sleeve. Duan Xiao looked back at me. I didn't make him lose face. I smiled casually as if nothing had happened. "My head hurts a bit. Can you take me home? Come with me, Duan Xiao. As long as you leave with me now, I will believe that you only like me and have no feelings for Shining, who has been pestering you." Our eyes met. He avoided my hand. "You know that. I can't leave." Seeing that my eyes were welling up with water as I looked straight at him, he let go of Shinying's hand and squatted in front of me. There was a bit more coaxing in his clear and quiet voice. "Shining is my direct junior. I have to protect her. Yuan, be good." He raised his hand and gently rubbed the corner of my eye. "If you don't want to see it, don't look. Wait for me for a few minutes." I tightly grasped his sleeve, wrinkling the cuffs of his white shirt. "Duan Xiao, if you kiss her, I will definitely break up with you." My eyes were extremely dry, but not a single tear fell. Staring into his eyes, I emphasized, "I really will." Duan Zhao's patience ran out. He tore my fingers one by one. He stood up and looked down at me. "Don't be so petty, Yuan. Meeting his eyes at this moment, I was stunned for a while. The last time I saw this kind of look in his eyes was when he heard that the nanny in his family wanted to introduce her daughter to him. There was endless contempt hidden in his polite refusal. 02. One of Duan Zhao's brothers couldn't stand it and couldn't help but persuade me. "Sister-in-law, don't take it too seriously. It's just a game," his girlfriend whispered. "Yeah, really a spoilsport. Why come to the bar if you can't play like this?" Before I could speak, Fu Xizhou, who had been sitting in the corner of the box and silent all the time, suddenly chuckled. The focus of the whole audience instantly shifted to him. His eyes landed on the girl who had just spoken. His wrist was propped on his head. He asked slowly, "You can play, then go and kiss all the men here." After saying that, he seemed to think of something and said slowly, "Except me, I can't play." He seemed to be very good at grasping the measure, enough to make the girl embarrassed, but not to the point of turning against her. Sure enough, the girl just stammered for a long time. Her face flushed red, and she couldn't say anything. Fu Xizhou bit the cigarette lightly and lit one, leaning against the booth. He threw the metal lighter on the coffee table. He sneered and threw her words back at her. "Spoilsport." I stared at him in shock without blinking. I didn't expect that as Duan Zhao's friend, he would speak up for me. I was so surprised that even when the two people in front of me finished their 3-minute kiss, I just came back to my senses, skipping the step of being sad. 03. When Duan Xiao sat back beside me, I just opened my phone and directly deleted his WeChat. The faint satisfaction on his face instantly dissipated, and he looked at me emotionlessly. "What do you mean? I told you just now, break up." Just as I was about to block his phone number, he pressed my hand. "Are you going to be endless?" Duan Xiao laughed ridiculously, with a hint of thin anger in his confusion. "It's just a game. How far do you want to act up? If it were you kissing someone else because of a game, I wouldn't care at all." He knew my rule-abiding character, so he was so unscrupulous. As soon as he finished speaking, the over there suddenly increased in volume. It was Fu Xizhou who had drawn the most exciting truth or dare challenge. "Please take any girl present to spend the night." A boy smiled meaningfully and added, "I mean, really go to a hotel and everything." At first, Fu Xizhou didn't move. People who knew him came out to smooth things over. "Can't you see my brother Fu's shoulders are hunched? He has been extremely clean living for so many years. Just have a drink as a penalty and it's over." The people present didn't take it too seriously either. After all, so far, almost everyone who has drawn this truth or dare challenge has just perfunctorily passed it. Few have actually taken action. "Wait," Fu Xizhou suddenly spoke, unexpectedly. He raised his eyes and looked at me. Everyone fell silent and stared in astonishment as he slowly walked up to me and reached out his hand to me. When he smiled with a curve of his lips, it seemed as if he could charm people's hearts. "Do you want to consider giving it a try with me tonight?" Duan Xiao narrowed his eyes and sized up Fu Xizhou, smiling and reminding, "If you're drunk, I'll have someone take you home, Xizhou. This is my girlfriend." The smell of gunpowder filled the air. Fu Xizhou casually glanced at him sideways. "So, it's just a game, Duan Xiao. Don't be a spoilsport." Duan Xiao looked indifferent. "How could I be? My girlfriend is too conservative. She definitely won't agree to you. I'll just reject it for her." But the next second, I placed my hand in Fu Xizhou's palm. "Okay." Duan Zhao's smile froze on his face. I thought of the malice in their tones every time I was called a good girl after entering university, as if they were looking at a feudal remnant. The alcohol was fueling my rebellious mentality, so I agreed to him as if possessed. Fu Xizhou looked at me holding his hand and slightly raised his eyebrows. He pulled me up and walked towards the door. There were constant exclamations behind us. "Damn it, that's Brother Fu, right? I'm not drunk and seeing things, am I? I'd rather believe that Brother Fu has been possessed." Duan Zhao's voice was the most obvious among them. "Stop." He was still sitting in the booth. The way he looked at me was like looking at a willful child. In a casual tone, "I just wanted to say," he smiled and said, "remember to tell me which hotel you're staying in. I'll send you some condoms." I spoke up before Fu Xizhou, smiling brightly. "No need. Are you being a bit too eager to please after breaking up and still worrying about your ex-girlfriend's hotel stay?" Duan Xiao. I looked at him with pity and refused not to euphemistically. "Sorry, I don't really like lapdogs." Before Duan Xiao could turn black-faced, I pulled Fu Xizhou and opened the door to leave. 04. It was only when I was sitting in Fu Xizhou's car that I let out a long, carefree sigh. The depression was completely gone. I politely thanked Fu Xizhou. "Thank you, Senior Fu, for helping me out today. Just drop me off at the subway station ahead." I took it for granted that I didn't take that truth or dare challenge seriously, and most likely Fu Xizhou thought the same. He controlled the steering wheel with one hand, and his voice was lazy. "Do you know the consequences of lying to them?" I shook my head, but I didn't care too much either. Sometimes before playing truth or dare, people would make an oath like, "If you lie, you'll be struck by lightning and stay single for the rest of your life." But I don't believe in such things. I took out my phone to see what was said in the group at that time. Group owner, "Let's play some exciting truth or dare tonight. Whoever lies will be poor for a lifetime, in debt, and never be able to get rich again." My pupils dilated in shock. I read these words over and over again. No, I really believe this. Before I could calm down from my panic, Fu Xizhou had already parked the car at the subway entrance. He jerked his chin towards the door and said with a half-smile, "Get out, junior schoolmate. It's just being poor for a lifetime. It's not a big deal." "No, this is very important." I immediately shook my head and tightly held the door handle. Fu Xizhou seemed to have misunderstood. "Can't open the door." As he spoke, he leaned over and placed his hand on the door handle. I didn't hesitate to press down on Fu Xizhou's hand to stop him from opening the door. His other hand was propped on the side of my seat, and his body was suspended above me. He quietly trapped me in the narrow space. Fu Xizhou looked down. "What do you mean?" A mess of thoughts was spinning rapidly in my mind. I blinked and blurted out, "I want to sleep with you." Fu Xizhou's eyes showed no emotion, and he retreated to the driver's seat. He pulled the corner of his lips meaninglessly. "But I don't want to." The atmosphere instantly froze into ice. It was so embarrassing that the top of my head seemed to be shaken. I at least had a mental breakdown 3 times in my heart before I slowly nodded. I didn't let my voice tremble. "Sorry, I seem to have drunk a bit too much. I offended you, Senior Fu." I lowered my head and said goodbye softly. "Then I'll go first." Fu Xizhou's fingertips moved, and he locked the car door. He started the car without saying a word. I looked back. The boy's side face looked a bit colder and more solemn than before. I guessed that he was angry about my previous overstepping and didn't allow me to escape, so I endured the embarrassment and tentatively apologized again. "I'm sorry, Senior, I didn't mean it. I really don't have any thoughts about you." I fidgeted in the passenger seat, my head lowered like a primary school student who had made a mistake. My voice was almost a murmur. "I don't want to sleep with you. You're very handsome, but you're definitely not my type." "Don't worry, Senior, you're safe." No one responded. The atmosphere in the car completely cooled down. I noticed that the car was speeding up. Why is Fu Xizhou even more angry? 05. Under my nervous and rich mental activity changes, Fu Xizhou stopped at the entrance of a bar. Meeting my confused gaze, he pressed his forearm on the steering wheel and casually glanced at me. briefly explaining, don't forget, we have to be together all night, oh. So we don't have to do that to avoid breaking the promise. Fusijo is really a clean, living and smart good student. I immediately got out of the car and followed his steps. Fusijo knew the owner of this place. He arranged for me to sit in the booth and then disappeared. A call from an unknown number quickly diverted my attention. On the other end of the receiver, Shening and Duan Xiao were chatting. Senior Duan, why don't you call senior sister? Aren't you worried at all that she might cheat? Duan Xiao thought her words were funny. Don't I know how futile she is? She's just saying it casually to be angry with me. There was a hint of casualness in the boy's voice, as if he had everything under control. She must have already gone back to the dormitory to sleep. Shening giggled, but seeing how calm senior is, it seems that you don't value senior sister very much either. There was a few seconds silence on the other side before the answer came, not that much. I was so angry that I immediately hung up the phone, feeling a sense of anger and shame at having the truth exposed, because I really was going to go back to the dormitory, wash up, and go to sleep. My chest felt as if it was blocked by a ball of wet cotton, heavy and suffocating. Just then, the cocktail I ordered was delivered. I directly grabbed it and took a big gulp, trying to extinguish this nameless anger. The waiter looked at me speechlessly. Just as he turned to leave, he suddenly stopped. He turned around sharply. Miss, the wrong drink was served. This one is a special blend our boss made for himself. He let out a panicked scream like a boiling kettle. I comforted him. It's okay, I'll pay you the original price. The waiter ignored my words and threw away the tray. Running towards the direction where Fusijo had left upstairs, 06, soon I understood why he was so panicked. This drink, it was spiked. When Fusijo appeared in front of me, my sobriety dropped to 5% in an instant. Yuan, how are you? The boy bent down and approached me. His cold hand was pressed against my cheek. So cool. I leaned against him comfortably and rubbed against it again, but with 5% sobriety, I couldn't help but think of his rejection of me. Reluctantly, I pushed away his hand. I jumped off the swivel chair and walked outside. Where are you going? Fusijo grabbed my arm and frowned tightly. I thought about it and replied instinctively, Senior, I seem to need a man now. Afraid that he might misunderstand, I seriously assured him, but it won't be you. After all, he helped me. It would be too immoral for me to force myself on him, so I strengthened my tone and said word by word, don't worry, I won't look for you no matter who I look for. Fusijo's face had turned extremely ugly. He let go of my hand and asked coldly, looking down at me, really, Song Yuan, I hope you can do what you say. When I came to my senses again, I found that I had been carried by Fusijo to a hotel room upstairs at some point. At the same time, my self-control dropped another notch. I felt as if I was in a swamp in the tropical rainforest, unbearably hot and restless. Fusijo took off all his upper body clothes. He was left with only a pair of gray drawstring sweatpants. He leaned lazily on the sofa and stared at me coldly. Come here. My eyes swept over the 6 neatly arranged little buns on his abs. Then they fixed there and I couldn't look away. Woo-woo. I obediently shuffled in front of him. Fusijo was playing with something that looked like a bottle of medicine in his hand. His peach blossom eyes were blurred and captivating. He half coaxed, half not, for the sake of me helping you today. Would you help me apply some medicine? I nodded, feeling like a melting ice cream cone, hot and weak, but I still took on this arduous task. Where does it hurt, Senior? Fusijo took my hot hand and placed it on one of the little buns. Here. I blinked quickly and changed the subject, completely unaware that my face at this moment was like a ripe and overcooked peach. Fusijo didn't answer. He took my hand and placed it on another little bun. This place also hurts, junior schoolmate. He returned to his flirtatious look, with a lingering smile. As I was applying the medicine, I unconsciously sat on his lap. He used the same trick again, taking my fingertips and stroking them against his lips. Does this place hurt too? I stared straight at those thin lips. Fusijo's voice was hoarse. Give it a kiss and you'll know if it hurts. I put my arms around his neck, lured to the point of losing all my reason. I gently kissed him, and then pulled away immediately. Fusijo placed his hands on my waist and looked down at me, asking softly, why did you stop kissing? I was a bit embarrassed and asked him for permission. Can I kiss again? After getting an affirmative answer, I kissed him again without any scruples. Fusijo pressed the back of my head and took the initiative. He forcefully pried open my teeth without hesitation. 08. When Fusijo's hand had already reached under my shirt, my phone rang inappropriately. Fusijo held my face and continued to kiss my lips, until he looked up and glanced at the caller ID on the phone. Then he pulled back a little, He picked up the phone and answered it. On the other end, Duan Zhao's voice was deep and urgent. Song Yuan, where are you now? Your roommate told me you didn't go back to the dormitory. Who are you with right now? Fu Xizhou casually pecked at my lips and perfunctorily replied to him. Are you calling at this time to bring us birth control products? I completely ignored Duan Xiao on the phone. I still wanted more and rubbed against Fu Xizhou's arms, chasing his lips. More. Fu Xizhou smiled, pinched my chin and turned my head slightly. He drawled out an and whispered ambiguously, I'll give it to you later. Duan Xiao was rarely this manic. Fu Xizhou, you know how much I like Song Yuan and you still dare to touch her. You're not being a good brother. Fu Xizhou put the phone on speaker and threw it aside. He took my hand and placed it on the drawstring of his pants, teaching me to untie it. Regarding Duan Zhao's words, he replied in agreement, then not anymore, not brothers anymore. I thought Duan Xiao was really annoying, because he kept babbling like an impatient king, causing Fu Xizhou to have no time to kiss me. I snatched the phone, hung up and turned it off. Fu Xizhou smiled knowingly, slightly tilted his head to avoid my nose and kissed me. 09. I had heard countless times from senior and junior schoolmates that Fu Xizhou was a taciturn and cold-hearted person. But he was particularly talkative tonight. Don't move. Let me take it off for you. Yuan, this part is also very beautiful. Don't cover it. He was extremely gentle. His words of praise and encouragement were particularly charming in his hoarse voice. Yuan, you're amazing. Open your eyes and look at yourself in the mirror. Okay, how could it be? It's obviously sweet. Do you want to taste yourself? I almost drowned in such a sweet trap, unconsciously. I did many things that I would be so embarrassed about when I thought back to them after waking up that I would want to bang my head on the ground. 10. When I woke up the next day, Fu Xizhou had already left. He didn't leave a single word. Obviously, he didn't want to have any connection with me. It was just an accident. I sat up holding the quilt, feeling a bit of expected loneliness. But when the warm sunlight hit my shoulder with red marks, I quickly let it go. Consider it as me getting a free ride with the heartthrob of the department. 11. I didn't have a blackout, so I wasn't surprised at all when I saw Duan Xiao downstairs at the dormitory. Yuan. When Duan Xiao walked in front of me, his expression wasn't as furious as I had expected. His tone was even a bit softer than usual. I deleted all of Xinying's contact information and will keep my distance from her in the future. Can you just pretend that what you said about breaking up yesterday didn't happen? Okay. I didn't know what expression to make to convey my current shock and the indescribable feeling, compared to the behavior of him kissing Xinying and then dumping me. I couldn't understand how he clearly knew what happened between me and Fu Xizhou last night, yet he could immediately come to me to make up. I even suspected that he had a cuckold fetish. I paused and still asked in confusion, aren't you mind that I was with Fu Xizhou last night? He raised his hand and flicked my forehead, looking relaxed. Stop pretending. Yuan, I already know. You two didn't do anything last night. I was stunned. My first reaction was that Fu Xizhou had told him, right? His leaving without saying goodbye was already a strong indication that he wanted to hide the fact that I took advantage of him. As Duan Xiao spoke, he wanted to hug me, but you really did deceive me. I went crazy looking for you all night, so we're even. Okay. I was extremely annoyed and pushed Duan Xiao away forcefully. I said we broke up. Can you stop bothering me? Please stay away from me. I did divination all night last night and it said you're bad for my financial luck. I was tired after more than 3 hours last night. I went back to the dormitory, wrapped myself in the small quilt and continued to catch up on sleep. 12. I was woken up by my roommate until the afternoon. Yuan, there's a meeting in your club. The club president said she called you but your phone was off and couldn't reach you. She asked me to inform you. I sat up quietly. After a while, I yawned slowly. Okay, thank you. Then, like a sloth, I slowly climbed out of bed, washed up, charged my phone and went out. When I walked to the club classroom, I had completely regained my energy. It wasn't time for the meeting yet. The president, including Fu Xizhou, hadn't arrived. A junior schoolmate came up to me hesitantly. She blushed and tugged at my sleeve. Senior, do you know if Vice President Fu Xizhou has a girlfriend? I want to chase him. An inexplicable sense of shame welled up in my heart. I didn't even know why I was feeling guilty. I shook my head at her. Probably not. The junior schoolmate's eyes lit up obviously and she asked, then do you know about Senior Fu? Can you tell me something about him? I shook my head more vigorously, trying to distance myself, to restore Fu Xizhou's pure and flawless image as a flower on a high mountain. I'm not familiar with him. I haven't even spoken a few words to him. The next second, a sarcastic laugh came from behind. True, after all. I was the one doing all the talking last night. All you said was and ah. I could feel a cold aura without even turning around. Fu Shizhou was wearing a windbreaker today. The zipper was pulled up to the very top, almost touching his chin. The all-black outfit added a bit of sternness to him. He leaned against the door frame with his arms crossed, smiling faintly. 13. I was pulled by Fu Shizhou to another empty classroom. He placed me on the table and supported himself on both sides of me with his hands. He stared at me coldly. I didn't see this coming, junior schoolmate. You're so heartless, what a huge false accusation. I suddenly raised my head, and my lips almost brushed against his chin. Fu Shizhou obviously made an evasive movement. Who taught you this? Kiss and sleep with someone and not be responsible? I put on a straight face and retorted righteously. I didn't mean to kiss you. It was an accident. He snorted softly. I advise you to think again, for no reason. The scene of me asking Fu Shizhou for a kiss last night suddenly flooded into my mind. The straight-backed posture I had just assumed slumped down. Fu Shizhou was clearly angry. He continued to settle the score, sleep with me and then run away without a word. Then he lowered his eyes and hooked the corner of his lips self-deprecatingly. He looked completely lonely. I didn't expect you to dislike me so much. To draw a clear line from me, not answering the phone or replying to messages, going to such lengths. I realized that there might be a misunderstanding. I didn't have the slightest thought of refuting or arguing back. My voice softened. I don't dislike you, senior. I woke up and saw you weren't there. I thought you had left first. My phone was turned off all the time. I forgot to turn it on. I didn't mean to ignore you on purpose. He raised his eyebrows. Probably he didn't expect things to turn out this way. Then he spoke slowly to explain that he had gone to buy me breakfast this morning. He had already sent me a WeChat message to tell me. It was just that my phone was off and I didn't see it. The misunderstanding was cleared up. Fu Shizhou's hand landed on my waist, so, he smiled gently, but there was no smile in his eyes. Instead, there was a threat. Junior schoolmate, you'll be responsible for me, right? The last two words were bitten off particularly clearly, as if I denied it, I would meet the Grim Reaper. I shivered and nodded like I was going to my doom. Fu Shizhou finally let me go. I jumped off the table and was about to go back to the meeting. The person behind me called me again. He put away his smile, looking gentle and serious. Afraid you might misunderstand that I'm only doing this for the sake of responsibility, so I want to emphasize this. Fu Shizhou looked at me. His eyes were cleaner than a clear spring. I like you. Since a long time ago, 14, when I got along with Fu Shizhou, I always felt a bit of unfamiliar awkwardness, especially after he confessed. But it seemed that only I was awkward. Until that time, after completely breaking through this barrier, I just let it all go. Someone reminded on the school confession wall. Recently, there has been a perverted man around the school. He is very fat. He loves to expose his private parts to girls on the street. He gets pleasure from the girls' screams and running away in a panic. 15. Near the end of the semester, I was already annoyed by memorizing the key points. That day, I happened to meet the perverted man when I was like a firecracker. On the quiet street in the evening, there was no sound of my terrified scream. The perverted man was stunned and looked at my calm expression in confusion. I took a look and clicked my tongue in annoyance. I started cursing completely. Do you think you have something to show off so you expose it on the street? Are you so proud of having a chili pepper hanging on a tree, compared with my boyfriend? It's really delicate and small. Using all the adjectives for tiny in the world is not enough to describe it. Perverted man, you. Don't get defensive. I took out my phone, unlocked it and started recording him. Don't you like to show off? I'll start a live stream to promote you. You're welcome. I kept my other hand in my bag, holding a stun gun. I stared at the perverted man's every move. If he didn't run away but attacked me in a fit of anger, I would shock him so that he wouldn't be able to feel his little chili pepper for the rest of his life. He looked fierce, but suddenly his eyes stopped on something behind me. Immediately, he didn't know whether to cover his face or his chili pepper and ran away. Before I could feel proud of my righteous act of getting rid of the evil, unhurried footsteps sounded behind me. The moment I turned around, I completely froze in place. The moment I met Fu Shizhou's eyes, I wished I could be struck by lightning. Fu Shizhou's peach blossom eyes were filled with an extremely lascivious smile at this moment. He had just opened his mouth when he was interrupted by another voice not far away. May I ask, who is the boyfriend you mentioned? Duan Sha didn't know how long he had been standing there. His expression was blank, but it was like the calm before a storm. Fu Shizhou quietly stood in front of me, looking back at Duan Shao. He smiled casually. What do you think? Duan Shao stared at him and issued a final ultimatum. Shizhou, this has nothing to do with you. I'm talking to Song Yuan. In a flash, I suddenly remembered a question that I had always overlooked. Why was Duan Xiao so sure that nothing had happened between me and Fu Xizhou that day? Obviously, Fu Xizhou hadn't told him anything. As I was thinking this, Duan Xiao himself said it. Didn't you two stay in the bar all night and never come out? The hand hanging by his side was already bulging with veins. You'd better not tell me. You did it in the bar booth. He twitched the corner of his mouth and sneered disdainfully. Isn't that too disgusting? I walked out from behind Fu Xizhou and questioned, how do you know we went to the bar again? Duan Xiao, were you following us? His smile turned even colder. Do I have that much free time? Then he brought up the chat records of the small group in the department he was in charge of in the club and showed them to us. One of the group members' home was just near that bar. When he was going home, he happened to see Fu Xizhou's car. So he sent it to the group. The next morning, he saw that the car hadn't moved, coupled with the image that Fu Xizhou had established in the past 3 years of keeping a respectful distance from girls. So he took it for granted and came to the conclusion on his own. Me and Fu Xizhou just stayed in the bar all night to fulfill the truth or dare challenge. As for the phone call that Duan Xiao made in the middle, it was also considered as us deliberately making sarcastic remarks to annoy Duan Xiao. 16 Duan Xiao put away his phone and his gaze swept back and forth between the two of us. Finally, it settled on Fu Xizhou, and he smiled calmly. Fu Xizhou, if you really slept with my girlfriend, I'll fucking kill you. I immediately stepped in front of Fu Xizhou and looked at him warily. My voice was stern. Duan Xiao, don't go crazy. I'll emphasize it one last time. I broke up with you that night in the bar. Fu Xizhou seemed not to feel the solemn atmosphere. He maintained his usual calm and composure. He pushed aside my hand and walked up to Duan Xiao. He curved his lips seductively and his words were provocative. It wasn't me who slept with her. It was her who slept with me. The taut rope suddenly snapped. Duan Xiao cursed and made a move to raise his hand, but was pressed down by Fu Xizhou. Instead, he took a punch from Fu Xizhou. This was the first time I saw him full of hostility. Fu Xizhou grabbed his collar and leaned in. What right do you have to question me? If you hadn't done those fuck things, would she have left you? Duan Xiao panted heavily and tried to fight back, but he was kicked hard in the chest by Fu Xizhou and fell to the ground. He looked down at him almost disdainfully. I'm really confused. What on earth gives you the confidence to be sure that no matter what you do, she won't leave you? Duan Xiao looked at me, who was watching coldly not far away, his eyes deep and complex. I turned a blind eye to it. When Fu Xizhou came over, I naturally took his hand and left. I didn't deliberately lower my voice as I complained about my ex to my current boyfriend. He's so weak. 17. Duan Xiao was just a small episode. What was supposed to come would still come. After the last class in the evening, I followed Fu Xizhou to his apartment outside, because he had a super cute Siamese cat. I went there with no ulterior motives at first, until after dinner, when we were watching a movie. Fu Xizhou fed me half a bottle of fruit wine. At the slightly tipsy stage, I was so bold that I could pierce the sky. Fu Xizhou held me on his lap and asked with great interest, do you still remember its size? I was fed up with his confident and flirtatious attitude, so I just decided to let it all go. I blinked and looked at him innocently. Yes, is there a problem? I pointed to a certain position on my lower abdomen. It reached here at that time. Fu Xizhou smiled and lowered his head to bite my lips. Is that so? He started his praising mode again. Yuan had a really good appetite that day. His fingertips slid to my lower abdomen and circled seductively. You'll do great today too, right? I blushed again, unconvincingly. My eyes were even burning hot. Stop seducing me all the time, Fu Xizhou. His kiss had moved to the side of my neck, and his voice was getting lower and lower. Then do you like it? I couldn't control my breathing and let out a soft moan. I murmured in reply, I like it. The Siamese cat was locked in the bedroom by Fu Xizhou. The sofa developed a function it didn't originally have. It endured everything it shouldn't have endured. That night, I was forced to say I like you countless times. 18. This time, I woke up in Fu Xizhou's arms. I turned around in his arms to face him, remembering our time together during this period and the subtle influence he had on me. Fu Xizhou is really good at this. If he wanted to, he could be more promiscuous than Duan Xiao and play more tricks, but he said, he only likes me. When I was in a daze, Fu Xizhou woke up, our eyes met unexpectedly, and I only realized later, the progress bar named like Fu Xizhou had already loaded more than half without me realizing it. Fu Xizhou squinted his eyes slightly, tightened his arm and pulled me into his arms. He rubbed his face against the crook of my neck. He mumbled with a sleepy nasal voice, I love you, Song Yuan, I love you. The lower half of my face was also pressed against the side of his neck. It was a more intimate gesture than when we were passionately entangled, making me feel even more shy. I replied in a small voice. I know. The movement of Fu Shizhou holding me paused imperceptibly for a moment, then it returned to normal. Okay, he didn't ask me anything. 19. Since that day in the bar, Shining had always been beaming with joy. She looked like she was deeply in love, but by chance, on the way out of school with Fu Shizhou, we met her, who had just been crying. She blocked our way and her tone was hesitant. Senior, are you together with Song Yuan? Fu Shizhou smiled politely and asked back, what does it have to do with you? Shining forced a smile. I just want to remind you, Senior, you might not know what kind of person Song Yuan is at all. Don't be deceived by her. I immediately lost my temper. Yeah, you know me the best. You might as well change your name to Shen Huichong, exclusive version for Song Yuan. From now on, Shining became angry from embarrassment and growled, Song Yuan, shut up. Fu Shizhou interrupted her, maintaining the last bit of his courtesy. Compared to Song Yuan, I do know you better. Shining couldn't believe it. Senior, you mean? Fu Shizhou sized her up thoughtfully. A mistress? A home wrecker, he asked politely. Which term would you prefer me to use to address you? Xing Ying's face turned pale and then red. In the end, the troublemaker left with a belly full of anger. It was really satisfying. That night, to reward Fu Shizhou, I tried to change from being passive to taking the initiative. Soon I found out that lying down was the most energy-saving position. I didn't take Shining seriously. But I didn't expect that she would dare to accuse me of dating two people at the same time in the school's super topic with her real name. And it became very popular. She presented the whole thing in the form of a video. The girl's eyes were red and she looked haggard. The title was, This is not about exposing someone. I just want to use the power of public opinion to make Senior Song Yuan realize the seriousness of the problem and stop destroying my relationship with my boyfriend. The whole video described how I had an ongoing connection with Duan Xiao while I was dating Fu Shizhou. As a result, her relationship with Duan Xiao broke down and Duan Xiao broke up with her. Yes, she didn't mention at all that she had interfered in my relationship with Duan Xiao. I closed my eyes, feeling a rush of anger. I hesitated for a long time before clicking on the comment section. I had already prepared myself to be scolded severely. However, top comment 1, my goodness. The mistress is crying out for injustice. Do you think we won't know about your interference just because you blurred the details of your relationship with Duan Xiao? Top comment 2. Even without reading that Weibo post, I don't believe you, little sister. Ever since I learned that Senior Song Yuan caught a pervert with her bare hands, I've unconditionally become her fan. Top comment 3. I came from that Weibo post and specifically came here to scold you, you mistress. Top comment 4. Oh right. To prevent the scumbag from hiding, I'm scolding both of you. You two are a disgusting couple. I've already reported that guy surnamed Duan. He won't be able to be the club president anymore. That Weibo post. I scrolled down further, and many people mentioned another Weibo post. It took about half a minute to find the link to that Weibo post. I clicked in and was shocked again. It was posted by Fu Shizhou with his real name. There was a narrative of about 3,000 words accompanied by a few pictures. It not only clearly and convincingly clarified that Duan Xiao had been pestering me persistently, but also firmly proved that Shining was the mistress. Most importantly, 2 minutes after Shining exposed me, Fu Shizhou followed up with a clarification post. 20. I immediately called Fu Shizhou. How did you guess that Shining was going to slander me and prepared these evidences in advance? He chuckled softly. He denied it, saying, I just took precautions based on her nature. I couldn't hold back my smile as I supported my cheek with my hand, but I still pretended to be reserved for a moment. You didn't have to prepare them in advance. The truth won't be buried anyway. In the end, Shining will definitely shoot herself in the foot. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, then Fu Shizhou said, But I don't want to give them any chance to scold you. My mind went blank. I finally understood his intention. Only by clarifying the matter immediately could I be maximally protected from being cyberbullied due to misunderstandings. It was as if fireworks exploded in my mind, scattering my rationality. Only love bubbles were left. After hanging up the phone, I ran towards the club's meeting room to find Fu Shizhou. 21. When I arrived, I unexpectedly heard Duan Zhao's voice through the door. Fu Shizhou, you're so afraid of me. Fu Shizhou indulged him as if he were coaxing a fool. Whatever you say is fine. I saw the clarification Weibo post you sent. Duan Xiao didn't care about his perfunctory attitude. Instead, he was full of interest. You sent it so quickly. It's obvious that you had the evidence ready long ago. But why? He chuckled. Because you're afraid that I'll come out and clarify things. Through a narrow glass window, I saw the electronic pen in Fu Shizhou's hand drop to the ground. He didn't say a word. Duan Zhao's expression became even more arrogant. You're afraid that if I come out and clarify, I'll steal your credit, and then Yuan Yuan will be touched and get back together with me. If I'm not mistaken, Yuan Yuan hasn't said that she likes you yet, right? Fu Xizhou came to his senses and picked up the pen. There was no emotion visible on his face. Are you done? The door is over there. I won't see you out. Duan Xiao seemed not to have heard him. His tone was a mix of emotion and pride. I know her better than you. It's impossible for her to fall in love with you so quickly. Even if she's with you, it's because you've slept together. It has to force it. Fu Xizhou, let Yuan Yuan go. This overly confident guy. I found a basin in the storage room next door, went to the bathroom to fill it halfway with water, and then pushed the door open and went in. Yuan Yuan. Duan Xiao put away his arrogant expression and called my name nervously. I didn't look at Fu Xizhou immediately. Instead, I held the basin in front of Duan Xiao. Duan Xiao looked down at the basin. There was a hint of unexpected joy in his eyes and brows. I interrupted him. Look down. Duan Xiao did as I said. Can you see clearly? I suddenly let go of the basin. The basin fell to the ground. Duan Xiao couldn't dodge in time and his pant legs got splashed wet. I thought your family was so poor that you couldn't afford a mirror. So I was kind enough to get you a basin of water so that you could see your true face. I was so angry that I launched a fierce attack. Why is it impossible for me to fall in love with Fu Xizhou so quickly? Do you mean that I have to mourn for you for a year before I can like someone else? He's better looking than you and more devoted. He's better than you in every way. Should I not cut my losses in time and go for a mutual relationship with him? But instead stay up late for you, listen to sad songs and write emotional essays. Duan Xiao pursed his lips and looked at me gloomily. Just because of that 3-minute kiss, you immediately abandoned me. Is that fair to me? So he doesn't understand human language. I took a deep breath to calm myself down. I forced a smile at Duan Xiao. If you think you've been treated unfairly, you can sue me. He was about to say something more when the club president appeared and interrupted his neurotic speech. The president's expression was serious. The matter between you and Shening has already caused a stir on the internet and has had a great impact on the school. The instructor will come to find you soon. The punishments for the two of you won't be light. Duan Xiao still stared at me stubbornly, as if he wanted to say something more. I held back the urge to gloat in his face and quickly dragged Fu Xizhou, who had been silent for a long time, away. 22. By the quiet and deserted lake. The cloudy weather made it easier to feel irritable today than usual. I had a solemn expression and was speechless as I faced Fu Xizhou. I was whether to explain first or confess my love first, but I heard his apology first. Part of the reason is indeed that I'm afraid you'll get back together with Duan Xiao. But my original intention was really to prevent you from being attacked by public opinion. I sighed. I held his face in my hands and our eyes met. Fu Xizhou, you don't have to be so cautious. Even if it's the first reason, you don't need to apologize. Because I like you. And things like this just make me think you're cute. He paused. After a few seconds, he let out a soft laugh. It's actually half a year earlier, I hummed. Half a year of what? Fu Xizhou looked at the artificial lake. His eyes a bit distant. I was prepared for you to fall in love with me in half a year. Of course, I also thought that you might never fall in love with me, but I've always been optimistic. I thought that as long as I'm good enough to you, better than everyone else, at least you won't like someone else, he said softly. Maybe you'd be willing to stay with me. Fu Xizhou, who had always been called the favored one of heaven, could actually say such humble words with a calm face. The sadness outweighed the touch. I buried myself in his arms and sobbed softly. Fu Xizhou, are you a love-struck person? He hugged me back and gently rubbed the back of my head, his voice lazy. I'm in love with you. I hugged him a little tighter and corrected him with a slight nasal voice. No, you should put yourself first and not lose yourself. Fu Xizhou raised his tone slightly and chuckled. Senior, can I borrow Senior Duan for 3 minutes? He said in a self-deprecating tone. If I could control it, I would have stopped liking you long ago. During the days when my relationship with Duan Xiao was flourishing and there were no cracks, Fu Xizhou's secret love was always in the dark. It was an endless night that couldn't be seen the end of. From being